Folks, good morning to you one and all, and pretty much to you one and all worldwide. South Africa versus New Zealand, iRacing South Africa International Clash of the Nations. It's a first, it's going to be awesome, it's very populated out on circuit, and I think this is going to be the pinnacle of iRacing in South Africa from the beginning of COVID to date. Good morning to you one and all. From my side, Gary Fleming, Second Year Talk Show, Second Year Productions, coming to you live from Cape Town in South Africa. And in the studio with me this morning, the voice of West Brothers Motorsport, Frank Ennis. Frank, good morning to you.
Gary, good morning. Good morning, everybody all over the world.
And also joining us is FC Nivo, the man from Yo Stasi and Rage Productions. FC, good morning to you.
Good morning, Gaza. Good morning, Frankie. Lovely to be here.
All right, so iRacing South Africa International Clash of Nations. Frankie, you've been involved with the iRacing South Africa right from the beginning, and this is the culmination of what has started off with the Sports and GT West Brothers Motor Club from Killarney National Raceway, and well, today we go international.
Well, yeah, it's going to be absolutely amazing. We've been part of it from the beginning since COVID-19 started. And we want to say good evening to all our friends that are in New Zealand.
So the circuit we are going to be at is going to be Road America, a circuit that was specifically decided upon because of the fact that slipstreaming is quite an issue with these V8 muscle cars. And FC, looking at the bit of practice that you've seen already, the times up top is going to be very, very tight.
Yeah, look, the practice times were pretty quick. I mean, we checked, I think it was the top 8 or 9 of them out there were all within 1 second of each other, and it's going to be super duper close. But at this stage of the fight, it does look like the New Zealand boys has got a bit of an advantage on the South African Chargers, unless South Africa was playing with a bit of a game there, not giving away their full hand.
I don't believe so. I've watched all the necessary practices, and probably my prediction is you're going to find that elite top 6, maybe 7, are going to go into sub 206s. You might get up to 10 at the utmost, but that's going to be fastest laps, not continuous.
Well, at this point in time, with the 5 minutes and 50 seconds done of the 22 minutes, it's ex-South African and national Shelby Can-Am champion, those just called the Vodacom Sports Prototypes, Darren Lobb, that is now in New Zealand. He's done a 205.458 so far. And then it's Mike Robinson with a 205.873. And the first of the SA boys in third position on a 206.282 is Julian Familiaris.
Yeah, behind Familiaris, Bruce Tannock for the New Zealand guys is out there on a 2-minute 6.304. In that fourth position with Nathan Anderson on a 2-minute 6.482 in that fifth position, before we see Johan Fourie out there in that sixth position with a 2-minute 6.578.
Yeah, then in P7 so far from South Africa, it's Jacques Botha. He's done a 206.725. Then New Zealand's Matt Stevens in P8 on a 206.762. And then 2 SA boys in there behind him, Matt Shorter on a 206.841. And then Byron Mitchell on a 206.922. And that is the top 10 so far, with 7 minutes done of the 22 minutes qualifying session.
As you can see, Darren Lobb, well, he's the head man from our touring side, the New Zealand side, and he has been consistently the quickest out there. Would not be surprised if he is in fact the man to catch today.
Yeah, 100%. He's going to be one of the tough guys to beat there. We know what some of these South African boys can do out there. We know Julian Familiaris is quick. We know Byron Mitchell is super quick. We haven't seen a time put up by Luke Lucchesi just yet, but we know that Luke is also right up there, able to fight with the rest of the team. So it'll be interesting to see by the end of these 22 minutes where the different drivers slot in. I mean, we commentate on some of these guys on a weekly basis. We know what they're capable of, and it's going to be interesting to see how we can match them up against some of the best that the world has to offer.
There is in fact Luke Lucchesi that is in the pit lane. The top 26 have put up times already, and as their times come through, so they will come up on the leaderboard, and we'll be able to actually see them on the leaderboard leaderboard. There we go. There's the top 25. And as we said, your target time is a sub 2:06, Frankie.
Right, we're with Yuan Fourie, and we now jump to Julian Familiaris. That's there in that third position with a 206.8, 206.282 there for Julian. He's just dropped down to that fourth position. We look at Mike Robinson. That's there in that second position. He's done a 205.873 from Team New Zealand. And the man up front still 205.458 is Darren Lobb as we watch Mike Robinson work his way around Road America.
Well, this is going to be pretty interesting stuff to see how it plays out, because obviously these cars are very, very twitchy, super powerful V8 power plants, and you really have to be very, very smooth on the power supply. I think what the South African guys learned from Darren Lobb in the practices earlier on in the week was that when you come out of the tighter corners, a lower gear gives you a smoother power supply and less wheel spin coming out of the corner. Although last night we had a display from Luke Lucchesi that actually did a bit of drifting with these cars for us, and you will see they use the whole track and more. There are certain areas of the track where you'll see where the curbing comes to an end, and then you'll see the grasses being driven away. The guys go through there again and again and again, and like that little piece that you see there, because of the fact that that's where you score the extra time. But get a wheel slightly, and I mean slightly, onto the grass, and it turns the tail end around.
Well, I'm looking at those cars there. The first 6 cars, 5 of them are Ford Mustangs, and then one Holden Commodore there in that 5th position of Bruce Tannock. So at this point in time, this is the man to beat. 205.458 provisional pole sitter is Darren Lobb, and behind him in second place with a 205.6, that is Mike Robinson, and then FC in that third position so far with a 206.250 is New Zealand's Mitchell Sparrow.
Yeah, so far it's an all New Zealand top 3, with Julian Familiaris leading the charge there for the South Africans on a 2-minute 6.282 in that 4th position. Bruce Tannock and his Holden Commodore on a 2-minute 6.304 in 5th. Nathan Anderson for New Zealand out there in the Ford Mustang on a 2-minute 6.482 as Familiaris just bumps up one position and reclaims that 3rd position ahead of Mitchell Sparrow.
Yeah, then in P7 we've got the second of the South African boys there. That is Yuan Fourie, and he's out there in the Holden Commodore, and he's done a 206.578 as Yuan Fourie. Then in provisional 8th position in the Holden Commodore, we've got Jacques Botha. Jacques Botha there with a 206.725 as we watch Yuan Fourie in that number 14 car work his way around. He is there in that 7th position with Jacques Botha in P8 on a 206.725. Then Matt Shorter in the top 10 in the Ford Mustang. Matt has done a 206.749, and then rounding off the top 10 in the Ford Mustang from New Zealand, Matt Stevens on a 206.762.
Bruce
Julian's just popped up there into 4th position overall as we carry on with Jason Kossi just outside of the top 10.
Yeah, that was Bruce Tannock that actually knocked Julian Familiaris down from that 3rd position. So Jason Kossi in that 11th position. Byron Mitchell, one of the fastest South African guys out there, only in 12th position at this stage of the fight in the Holden Commodore with a 2-minute 6.922. Luke King right there on his tail in that provisional 13th position on a 2-minute 7.053.
Then Taylor Mitchell in that 15th position. He's done a 207.209. And then right behind him is Eamon Young. Eamon Young is in that 17th position with a 207.221. Then the next SA boy there is in that 18th position, and he is in the Holden Commodore. That is Jason Kutsia. He's dropped down to 19th now on a 207.236.
Well, we just saw the whole leaderboard shift down there. That was because Keegan Masters went sub 2 minute 6. That is a 2 minute 5.943. Good enough to put him in provisional third position. That knocked down Tannock and Familiaris and everybody below him. So brilliant qualifying lap there for Keegan Masters.
But at this point in time, it's only Darren Lobb and Mike Robertson that's doing roundabout mid 205s. Or Keegan Masters has done a very high 205.9, so it's high 205s there for Masters. Otherwise, FC, most of the guys are doing low to mid 206s.
Yeah, Familiaris and Tannock basically knocking on that 2 minute 5 door there with basically not that much keeping them from the 2 minute 5s. But down the field, we've got Peter Hubert in that 22nd position. He's ahead there of New Zealand's Nick Mitchell in 23rd, who's on a 2 minute 7.386. Jack Groenewald, Francois Hubert, Keegan Campos, and Cole Taylor rounds off your top 27 at this stage of the race.
Yeah, and then in 28th position from SA, we've got Noah Hendricks. Robbie Teings out in 29th, and then outlap for the man in 30th position so far, and that is Shane McLeod. And I think he's one of the oldest drivers out there. We won't repeat what was what was said to us, but yeah, he's going to have a lot of fun out there. He's Shane McLeod.
Yeah, some very colourful descriptions that came through with some of the New Zealander drivers. We'll go through some of that information a little bit later during the course of today. But let's have a look and see if anybody can catch those guys at the front. We had about 5 guys in these sub 2 minute 6s during practice. So far, only 3 guys able to break through. And the guys all on some fast runs out here, trying these the slipstreaming as they make their way around Road America, coming to you from the United States of America.
Well, the guys are working their way around. 15 minutes of the 22 minutes qualifying has been done. We've got a problem out there for car number 17. One of the SA boys just lost it out there. And lucky it's still qualifying, so he can recover some of it as we watch Leighton Fourie go through. Leighton is there in that 11th position and he's just behind Johan Fourie. Leighton Fourie, as a matter of fact, had a birthday, I think, on Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. Leighton Fourie had a birthday, so we want to wish Leighton Fourie a happy birthday. And he's in that group of SA drivers there with Johan Fourie, Jacques Botha and Matt Shorter there around Leighton Fourie.
Yeah, that's a whole grouping of 4 drivers there from 10th position all the way down to 13th. And it's looking tough out there for the South African boys. Only 3 South Africans in that top 10, with the rest of them all New Zealand drivers. And at this stage of the fight, Ford seems to be the car to be in, as 8 out of your top 10 in the Ford Mustangs, with only 2 Holdens making it into that top 10.
Yeah, and if you look from P16 all the way down to P25, except for Tony Lynch's Ford FC, they're all Holden Commodores. So 16 minutes done, so the boys in the Holden Commodores are going to have to get a move on, because they've been outdone so far by the drivers in the Ford Mustangs.
Strangely enough, the Holden Commodores, basically the old Opel records, the Chevrolet records that we had.
True.
Also, basically the Pontiac G8 that currently runs in the United States, and in South Africa it's known as the Chevrolet Lumina.
Yeah, well, in South Africa, we refer to it as Chev. In Australia and New Zealand, they refer to it as Holden. So we'll refer to it as well as Holdens, as Leighton Fourie makes his way into the pit area.
17 minutes done and dusted in this qualifying time. There's about just under 5 minutes left in this qualifying round. Can any of the South Africans improve their time, or has the New Zealanders shown them how it's done? Darren Lobb still out there in that pole position. He's on an outlap, so he's going to try and improve on that time to really lay the gauntlet down for the rest of the New Zealand boys and the South Africans out on track. Then Mike Robinson, he's currently in the pit lane. We'll have to see if he does another run. Keegan Masters, the top place South African at this stage, on the 2-minute 5.943, ahead there of Barry Mannon and Bruce Tannock.
18 minutes done, and still Darren Lobb is the quickest man out there with a 2:05.458. There's Keegan Masters busy working his way around. He's the lead SA boy. So FC, this is a classic All Black versus Springbok race. By the way, New Zealand, congratulations on winning the Super Rugby Championships. You guys wrapped it up this weekend. We finished in second position, just 1 point behind you guys, in one of the toughest competitions I think we've ever had. So yeah, congrats to them, and we'll continue the fight out on the circuit. The All Blacks versus the Springboks, if I can call it that.
Yeah, it was a tough one yesterday. It's going to be another tough one today, and it's lovely to see the sportsmanship between the guys out there, and to see the camaraderie. I must say it's been quite interesting to see the build-up of that. But we got some news from the production side. Gary Fleming.
Well, what can I say? There's so many million camera shots available. We're going to be doing a full production for you today. Executive Production Studios. So the format, qualifying as you see it out there now, 22 minutes, 19 minutes of that gone. Race number 1 will be 10 laps or 25 minutes, depending on the carnage. I never said that, depending on the carnage. Race number 2 will also be 10 laps or 25 minutes with a reverse grid. Yes, I think that's going to be kind of hectic on a reverse grid, with all the quicker guys coming through from the tail end of the field. And then the final, there'll be a 10-minute warm-up, and then we'll have 30 laps or 70 minutes, whichever comes first, for the final race of the day.
Yeah, we're going to be doing 3 races, 2 short races, and then a feature race as we watch the guys busy working their way around. So Darren Lobb is still the quickest man out there, with Mike Robinson in second position, Mitchell Sparrow there in third. 20 minutes is done, so we are heading towards the end of this qualifying stint.
Yeah, there was quite a few changes at the top end of the qualifying field there. Mitchell Sparrow improved on his time. We just lost the time there. Mitchell Sparrow moving up into that third position. Julian Familiaris also one up Keegan Masters. There we go, back on the times there. So now we've got 6 of the drivers in the 2-minute 5 region, of which from third place all the way down to 6, all of them in that 2-minute 5.9 range, with about 200ths of a second in between each of them.
Time is beginning to run out as Jacques Botha is making his way around. Jacques Botha is in that Holden Commodore. Jacques finding himself there in that 12th position. Matt Stevens is in that 8th position. The guys are all in the pits right now. Well, we've got about 50 seconds to go before the qualifying session is done. So I think pretty much where you see them now, FC, is where they're going to start this first 10-lap short race.
Yeah, this is the last shot that you will have to try and put up a time there, as Jason Kutsia makes his way around the circuit. He's got about 30 seconds to make it to that start-finish line to put that time up on the board. He is in turn number 1, so I don't think he's going to be able to do that. He's not going to be able to make it around the circuit.
He's 1.7 seconds off the pole sitter Darren Lobb, and he's only making his way towards turn 5 now with 10 seconds on the clock. I think he's going to probably stay there in that 24th position. Gary was just saying something interesting now. Luke Lucchesi was the quickest of the SA boys in practice, but FC in qualifying, no times out there for Luke Lucchesi.
Yeah, no time out there for Lucchesi. But that is qualifying done and dusted. And this is your grid for race number 1. Darren Lobb for New Zealand, and Mike Robinson is making it an all New Zealand front row, with Mitchell Sparrow in that third position. Julian Familiaris, the first of the South African boys for Durant Motorsport, lining up in that 4th position.
Then I see Bruce Tannock and Matt Stevens there in P8, followed there by Nathan Anderson and Dion. Now, did we say De Graaf or De Graaf? I'm not sure how you would pronounce his surname. Then we've got Johan Fourie and Jacques Botha, followed there by Luke King, Byron Mitchell, Leighton Fourie and Matt Shorter.
Yeah, Aaron Goodrick and Jason Cossey for New Zealand in that row number 9. Taylor Mitchell and Francois Hubert out there in row number 10 with Peter Hubert, Tony Lynch, Eamon Young, Jason Kutsia, Noor Hendricks and Sean McNamara running off your first 13 rows.
Then we've got Nick Mitchell and Jack Groenewald, followed there by Willem Botha, Keegan Campos, Cole Taylor, Mike Verrier, Shane McLeod, Robbie Teeing, Sander Bakari, Peter van der Spey, Herman Lazarus, Ian Riddle, and then Luke Lucchesi and Richard Allport. They will start off at the back of the grid. So FC heat number 1. Here we go.
Yeah, going to be a very interesting one here for this first race as we wait for all the guys to take to the grid.
Still waiting there for Luke King to grid. There he grids now. And Taylor Mitchell as well.
Yeah.
So here we go. Once again, hello everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you find yourselves. Here we go. Second Gear Production Studio. Frankie Yennis, Mike Side, together with FC Nivo. Gary Fleming will be commentating with us. He's doing all the camera work. Hello to everybody in South Africa. Hello to everybody in New Zealand. And we're about to go green. The New Zealand boys lock up those first few positions. Darren Lobb and Mike Robinson and Mitchell Sparrow get a lovely start off the line. They're beginning to pull away there from Masters, Tannock and Familiaris already. That's the 3 New Zealand boys. The first SA boys in P4. That is Keegan Masters. Look at this field of 40 Ford Mustangs and Holden Commodores all together.
Well, by the looks of it, they all made it through turn number 1 and turn number 2 as they head now towards the Moraine sweep. And there's massive contact as somebody gets sent off. That's Bruce Tannock that gets sent flying off onto the grass.
So here we go now, working their way around. It's Robertson. We go all the way down there to Barry Mannon. That sits out there in that 7th position. Jacques Botha, he's dropping down. He is in 11th place. Jason Cossey is the man that we see there. He's in P15 in that Ford Mustang. As they make their way around Road America. At the end of lap number 1, we'll put up the intervals for you. Then we'll see exactly how close they all are to each other. We ride aboard here with Mike Robinson in that 2nd position. Look at the Ford Mustangs. They've locked out the first 9 positions.
Yeah, it's an all Ford show out there, and it's an all New Zealand show out there as well for those top 3 positions. Lobb, Robinson, Sparrow. Then we've got Keegan Masters first for the South Africans as we ride on board there with Leighton Fourie, who is down in 13th position in a grouping of South African drivers there as being led by Johan Fourie. But Leighton's got Luke King on his case. But they're all, just look at how close those times are. We're going to see a lot of action out here at Road America today.
The first 21 drivers is all over each other from P1, which is Darren Lobb all the way down to Francois Hubert. That's there in that 21st position. Darren Lobb, 3/10 of a second ahead there of Mike Robinson. That's in that 2nd position. Mike going a touch wide there. The brake lights of us Mustangs come on there. Mitchell Sparrow, 8/10 of a second behind him in 3rd position. And then a 10th of a second behind Mitchell Sparrow is the first of the SA boys, namely Keegan Masters.
Something's gone horribly wrong for Luke King. He was in that top 10, 13 positions, and he's dropped all the way down the field. But it is just look at this high V8 supercar train as they come down the long main straight into turn number 1. Brilliant shot there. Leighton Fourie sitting in that 12th position ahead there of Jason Cossey. He's about 1.3 seconds ahead there of Cossey and trying to catch up to Byron Mitchell. Then at the front there, Mitchell Sparrow trying to catch up there to Keegan Masters. They're all in that high-speed train at the front as Masters is 1.1 behind Robinson, but only 4/10 of a second ahead of Mitchell Sparrow.
In your life, have you seen a high-speed express train? This is Aussie V8 supercars at its best here with New Zealand and South Africa. We look at Johan Fourie that sits there in that 10th position. He's 3/10 of a second behind Dion de Graaf. That is there in that 9th place. and he's trying to get through. There is nothing between Fourie and De Graaf, and ahead of them is Matt Stevens and Barry Mannon. But Johan Fourie trying all he can, because he's got two SA boys behind him there in Byron Mitchell and Leighton Fourie.
Yeah, Leighton Fourie right there behind him. They've got Taylor Mitchell for New Zealand in that 13th position. Jason Kossie in 14th, followed there by Aaron Goodrick in 15th. Tony Lynch finds himself there in 16th position, with Matt Shorter, the next South African, out there in that 17th position.
Nathan Anderson sitting there in that 5th position. He's a 10th of a second behind Mitchell Sparrow, and he's got Julian Familiaris in there. Jules is 2/10 of a second there behind Nathan, as they work their way through. As we go all the way down to Byron Mitchell and Johan Fourie, there's a lovely fight there between Mitchell and Fourie, and Leighton Fourie is in there behind Byron Mitchell as well. These are three of the SA boys fighting it out there for P10.
Just look how cherry red those brakes glow as they go into a corner. Somebody's having some serious connectivity issues out there in the 40th position, the very last position on the grid. You see that car flashing in and out of view on the track map to the right of the screen. But a brilliant race out there. Mike Robinson putting up the fastest lap time so far, a 2-minute 5.9, as they all battle it out there. Lucchesi has worked his way up into that 22nd position from almost stone last on the grid.
Yeah, he started off in 39th position, did Luke Lucchesi, and he's 1.4 seconds behind Keegan Campos. He's Luke Lucchesi, but it's all about Nathan Anderson's gone up. Anderson is chopping and changing positions there with Julian Familiaris, and Mitchell Sparrow is in that one as well. These guys are chopping and changing all the time, and that is for P4, 5 and 6.
Well, seeing how the cars flicker there, that must be some connectivity issues there for some of the Aussie
Yes.
New Zealand drivers out there. But at this stage of the fight, Keegan Masters, the highest placed South African, he's up in that 3rd position. He makes a slight mistake. It's a wiggle all over the show. But we jump to the leader. Darren Lobb from New Zealand leads this one. He's got a 7/10 lead ahead there of Mike Robinson in 2nd, who is in turn 2 seconds ahead of Keegan Masters for South Africa.
Yeah, they're busy working their way through the carousel. Then they'll go into the kink, then to Kettle Bottoms and into Canada Corner, drop down to turn 13, and then all the way to turn 14, which will be the final corner before we go uphill on that main straight. Anderson losing the circuit slightly there, and Familiaris is right on his case, and so is Barry Mannon.
There's contact.
That's Familiaris, and he's dropping all the way down the leaderboard.
Yeah, there was contact there with one of the New Zealand drivers, and Familiaris will not be too happy with that one as everybody starts barreling past him. He's just losing positions.
Yeah, he's trying to get back on again, and oh man, that's so bad. Like, look at Anderson, he's squirming that thing all over the place there. He's Nathan Anderson, and he's got Matt Stevens right in there behind him, now ahead of him. As with that squirming around, Anderson has lost that 6th position there to Matt Stevens.
Yeah, Anderson having lost that one to Matt Stevens as the New Zealand boys start getting their elbows out and fighting amongst each other for those top. Fourie, if anybody can work his way through this field, and if anybody needs a change of luck out there on the track.
We're on lap number 4 of a 10 as we have a look at Leighton Fourie. That sits there 6/10 of a second behind Johan Fourie, and 1.5 seconds ahead there of Byron Mitchell, and Leighton running wide, and he loses that position there. No, it was Johan. Yes, it was Johan that ran wide there. And Leighton Fourie just tucked his nose in ahead there of Johan Fourie.
Yeah, Leighton gaining a position there ahead of Johan Fourie. But ahead of them, there's a big battle out there between the New Zealand guys. Well, Matt Stevens and Nathan Anderson battling it out there between the lot of them. Dion de Graaf in there as well, as they all sit there behind Barry Mannon. Then down the field, Matt Shorter must have picked up some problems as he's dropping down Jacques Botha leads that big South African train out there in 17th position, ahead of Francois Hubert, Matt Shorter, Keegan Campos, Luke Kesey, and Jason Kutsia.
Well, I'm looking at this group of New Zealand drivers. They are all fighting at this point in time for Barry Mannon's 5th position. Matt Stevens, Nathan Anderson, and Dion de Graaf. They're all in there, and they're fighting for that 5th position that belongs there to Barry Mannon, who's 3.2 seconds behind Mitchell Sparrow.
Well, they can fight amongst themselves for that position, but look who's there to pick up the pieces if something goes wrong. It is Leighton Fourie, Johan Fourie, and Byron Mitchell. That whole grouping so tight and close together that anything can still happen in that mid-pack.
Well, the New Zealanders are dominating this one, and poor Keegan Masters is saying, come on, boys, I need you to help me. I've been mugged here by these bunch of All Blacks as they work their way around Road America. Matt Stevens turning in. Right behind him is Dion de Graaf, and then Leighton Fourie, Johan Fourie, and Byron Mitchell. Oh, Stevens and de Graaf makes contact there, and Willem Botha picking up problems. That's a replay of Willem Botha having issues out there.
Back on board with this massive fight here for 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. That is Matt Stevens that leads them. Then he's just ahead, just behind Nathan Anderson, de Graaf, and Leighton Fourie battling it out there as the Fouries and Mitchell start getting involved in that fight as well. We're going to see some high-speed action out here in the V8 supercars as Barry Mannon, Nathan Anderson, Matt Stevens, and Dion de Graaf are going to start having their hands full with the South African boys of Leighton Fourie and Johan Fourie.
What a rumble in the jungle out there, and Barry Mannon's going to come under attack from his own teammate. That's Nathan Anderson, and Leighton Fourie is looking there at Dion de Graaf, and he's got ahead of him. And so is Johan Fourie. They both got their noses FC ahead there of Dion de Graaf.
Yeah, that was a very big thank you for opening the door and allowing us through. We'll take that one, thank you. Leighton Fourie, Johan Fourie moving up the order there. Now Byron Mitchell is left on his own there to try and fight through the field as Taylor Mitchell has worked his way past Byron Mitchell. So a battle of the Mitchells for that 11th and 12th position.
What an absolute fight there. And Lucas also joining them, as you were saying there. Byron Mitchell, Jason Kutsia, and Aaron Goodrick has also joined that fight. So they are all in there. Jason Kossi, and then Goodrick is in there as well. And they're all over the back end there of the man in P6. And that is Nathan Anderson. Yeah,
Nathan Anderson will be absorbing a mountain of pressure at this stage of the fight with that high-speed train lining up behind him. It is Stevens, Fourie, de Graaf, Mitchell, and then Kossi and Goodrick joining that fight as well. And I predict that those little tussles and those putting out the elbows out are long from being over.
Right, so it's Darren Lobb that sits out there in P1. He's nearly a second ahead there of Mike Robinson. That's in that second position. He's 2.5 seconds ahead there of South Africa's Keegan Campos. That is there in that third place, but he's been hassled heavily there. Keegan Masters, He's been hassled heavily there by Mitchell Sparrow. That is in that fourth position. And Sparrow was 3.7 seconds ahead there of Barry Mannon, who was 2.3 seconds FC ahead of Matt Stevens, who's now lost the position there to Anderson and to Leighton Fourie.
Yeah, running very, very wide there as Leighton Fourie works up his way up the inside there as well. Now he's got the hard-charging Johan Fourie on his case. Johan Fourie's not going to want to sit there for too much longer. He believes he can make his way past Matt Stevens as well and get at least another South African up into at least the top 8 position.
Well, that's Johan Fourie we're having a look at there, and Johan sitting in that 9th place. He's having a look at the back of that Ford Mustang of Matt Stevens, and Johan is 0.5 of a second behind Stevens. Stevens P8, Johan Fourie there in P9 as he hunts down Matt Stevens. Well, we do have 3 SA boys in the top 10, Keegan Masters, Leighton Fourie, and Johan Fourie, and the rest of them are all New Zealanders. But anything can happen, FC. It is incredibly tight out there.
Leighton Fourie making a passing maneuver there. He's battling it out there with Nathan Anderson as they're all battling out. It's Anderson who's now got to absorb all of this pressure as Leighton Fourie's on the move. Have a look here. Is he going to put his nose up on the inside? He's got Matt Stevens behind him as well. Johan Fourie applying pressure from behind as well. That is going to be a very, very big fight out there for that 6th, 7th and 8th.
But if Leighton Free looks in his rearview mirror and his wing mirror, he'll see Matt Stevens and maybe even Johan Free. Here comes Leighton, and Leighton Free making a move, and he gets his nose ahead there of Nathan Anderson.
Yeah, oh, there's a bit of rubbing is racing out there between the two of them, but Leighton Free's worked his way up into that position, but Anderson not giving up. He's going to try and get back at him. He's got right up on that back bumper. Remember, these cars being very good with the toe and the slipstreaming. And contact as Johan Free gets it all out of shape. There was that contact from De Graaf behind him.
Yeah, it was Dion De Graaf that made contact there with Johan Free, but to be back here with Leighton Free, and Leighton's involved in a hell of a war here with Nathan Anderson and with Matt Stevens. What a fight there. The two New Zealanders all over that Holden Commodore, and here we go, they are side by side. Free and Anderson, there was 300ths of a second once upon a time between them, but it is Leighton Free that somehow, some way holds on to that 6th position, but is absolutely been obliterated here by Anderson, Stevens, and here comes De Graaf, Taylor Mitchell and Byron Mitchell as well. That's all the way down in P11.
Yeah, Johan Free lost positions there faster than what we lose confidence in our government here in South Africa, as he is down there in that 12th position. Aaron Goodrick sitting in 13th position, Tony Lynch in 14th, and Matt Shorter in 15th.
Shorter out there in that 15th, but he's been hassled there by Eamon Youngs. There's a lovely fight going down there for that 15th position with Matt Shorter. He's got Eamon Young, Jacques Buerta and Luke Lucchese in there as well. We'll have a look at that fight now, the one that I'm talking about. Lucchese's gone from 39th up to that 18th position, but we focus on this fight. And that is the fight there for Leighton Free's 6th position, because Anderson, Stevens, De Graaf, Mitchell and Mitchell, that's Taylor and Byron, is right in there, and they're all crowding the back end of the Leighton Free Holden Commodore.
It was easy for Leighton Free when he was the man charging up to try and stay in the fight and trying to gain some positions. Anderson around the outside. A brilliant passing maneuver there by Nathan Anderson as he works his way back past into that 6th position. I was about to say Leighton Free being quite quick when he's in the pack and he's got that slipstream from the car ahead of him. The moment you get out of that slipstream and you are the leader, you're dragging everybody else behind you, and that is what is happening in this train from that 6th position all the way down into 11th.
Well, Leighton Free there in that 7th position, and now dropping down. He's having a fight there with Nathan Anderson. There's 800ths of a second between Anderson and Free as we ride aboard here. The in-car cam shot of Leighton Free now in that 8th position. And I'll tell you what, it is not easy out there. Look at him sawing away at that steering wheel to try and keep control of this monster Aussie V8 supercar.
I tell you what, there's no shortage of some of the contact as we see from other Aussie supercar V8 racing. But from the top of it all, Darren Lobb is the man that's doing everything right. He's in the lead. He's got 7/10 ahead there of Mike Robinson in that 2nd position. And they are all 3.2 seconds ahead there of the first South African, and that's Keegan Masters.
Yeah, well done to Keeg sitting there in that 3rd position, but he's only 0.8 of a second ahead of Mitchell Sparrow. That is there in that 4th position. There you see Masters. There you see the 71 of Sparrow. Then it is Barry Mannon in P5, 3.6 seconds behind Sparrow. Then Nathan Anderson in a P6. He's 6.7 seconds behind Mannon. But look what is tucked in there behind him. Matt Stevens, Leighton Free, Dion De Graaf, Byron Mitchell, Taylor Mitchell, Johan Free coming back into play again, as well as Aaron Goodrick.
Now, Aaron Goodrick, the next man out there to be part of that battle in the 13th position for New Zealand. We've got a battle here. Is that Johan Free? Free's going to try and make a move up on the inside there of Taylor Mitchell. They're side by side coming down the long main straight as they work their way around Road America. Free's got that inside line into turn number 1. Brilliant mover, just says, puts the elbows out and says, thank you, I'll have this one.
That's what you call a block pass.
Johan Free, a man who's been known to do that in real racing, in sim racing. He knows all the tricks in the book. You've got to be really quick out there to pull one over on Johan Free.
Yeah, but Taylor Mitchell's only a tenth of a second. Make that 800ths of a second behind him. He's going to pull out. Is he going to pull out there? He's got the slipstream there on Johan Fourie, and he rubbed him. He rubbed the back end there and unsettled Johan Fourie, and that has sent Johan Fourie very, very wide into that left-hander.
Yeah, Fourie's not going to be happy with that one. That's actually been happening with him quite a few times these last couple of weeks, where a little bit unnecessary contact there has worked him out of a position. But yeah, the guy's not backing out of it. This is for national pride for New Zealand and South Africa. And somebody else runs wide there. That is Matt Stevens. And Byron Mitchell works his way past up into 8th position.
Well, they do say rubbing is racing, and this is exactly what it's all about. So Deon de Graaf there in that 11th position. Him, Aaron Goodrick, and de Graaf is dropping down. De Graaf has slowed right down, and de Graaf has gone down into that 13th position. But once again, FC, it's a train of cars behind the man in P9, namely Taylor Mitchell.
But it is your race leader who's working his way towards the start-finish line to start the last lap, the lap number 10. It is Darren Lobb leading this race. White flag is out. This is the final lap for Lobb. Robinson, he's started his last lap as well. Keegan Masters, Mitchell Sparrow. Next man that'll come through is Barry Mannon, as all of these guys now have got one more lap to try and make as much of it as possible.
Right, so Barry Mannon sitting out there in P5. Here we go. This is Nathan Anderson, and he's chopping and changing positions there with Leighton Fourie. Leighton's got his nose ahead. Well, Leighton drive around him on the outside. They're still side by side, the two of them. It's Anderson on the left-hand side of your screen. It's Leighton Fourie on the right-hand side of your screen, and diving around him on the outside is Leighton Fourie, moving up there into P6 with Anderson in P7.
Yeah, brilliant passing maneuver there by Leighton Fourie into turn number 3. Riding aboard with Byron Mitchell in car number 17. He's out there in 8th position with Taylor Mitchell in 9th position. Johan Fourie's worked his way back into that 10th place, followed by Deon de Graaf, Aaron Goodrick, Tony Lynch, and then another grouping of South Africans, Matt Shorter and Jacques Botha in 15th.
Yeah, and right behind them is Eamon Young, Luke Lucchesi, and Jason Coetzee. That's a lovely fight there, and that is the one that we are looking at there, as we see Tony Lynch there in that 12th position, and they're all over the back end there of Johan Fourie.
Yeah, Johan Fourie in a little bit of trouble there, as he's got that high-speed train behind him now in the form of de Graaf. As de Graaf makes his way past Fourie, Fourie losing that position, and he's going to have to settle for that 11th place now as we head towards the closing stages of race number 1. Half a lap, less than half a lap to go for your race leader, Darren Lobb.
Yeah, Darren Lobb has just gone through Canada corner, turn 13. He's going into turn 14 now, which is the final corner. That's a tight right-hander, and he'll climb the hill, towards a race victory for New Zealand's Darren Lobb, coming home in P1, 7/10 of a second ahead there of second place man Mike Robinson.
Yeah, Robinson brings it home in that second position. Next man through, the first of the South Africans, Keegan Masters, brings it home in third, just 7/10 of a second ahead there of New Zealand's Mitchell Sparrow. Barry Mannon brings it home in 5th, and Leighton Fourie will be 9 seconds down the road, bringing it home in that 6th position.
7th will be Nathan Anderson, and right on his heels will be Byron Mitchell. There's Taylor Mitchell. Deon de Graaf crosses the line, and right on his case is Johan Fourie, Tony Lynch, Matt Shorter, Jacques Botha, and Aaron Goodrick. And then Eamon Young rounds off the top 16. And FC Lucchesi all the way from 39th to 17th.
Yeah, we never even got to see Luke Lucchesi do anything out there. He worked his way basically from the back of the pack right up into that 17th position. Jason Coetzee in 18th, followed by Francois Hubert, Bruce Tannock, Jason Nkosi with Sean McNamara, with Noah Hendricks in 23rd, Matt Stevens in 24th, Keegan Campos down there in that 25th position, Cole Taylor 26th, and Sandro Bakari out there in 27th position.
Well, what an opening race we've had here. South Africa versus New Zealand in Aussie V8 Supercars at Road America. And we're not done yet, gentlemen. We still got another short race to go.
That was only race number 1.
just wait for the grids to come up as the guys are still moving out on circuit. So that'll give us the final result yet on that one. So that was heat number 1, 10 laps or 25 minutes, whichever comes first. Wow, some very interesting stuff. Now, FC, a inverted grid. Surely that is chaos.
Is that inverted based on a race result or inverted according to qualifying?
Well, let's have a look at it. 'Cause the
I
grids
would
just come
think it's
up,
race result.
and I think that is race results.
Yeah. So we've got Aaron Goodrick that'll be taken to the pole position with Jacques Butter alongside him. Matt Shorter in that third position, followed by Tony Lynch. Johan Fourie in that fifth place on the starting grid with Dion de Graaf, Taylor Mitchell, Byron Mitchell, Nathan Anderson and Leighton Fourie rounding off your top 10.
Then it's Barry Mannon and Mitchell Sparrow, Keegan Masters, Mike Robinson, Darren Lobb, and Eamon Young, Luke Lucchesi, Jason Coetzee, Francois Hubert, Bruce Tannock. That's the top 20.
Yeah, then we've got the likes there of Jason Kossi, Sean McNamara, Noah Hendricks, Matt Stevens, Keegan Campos in 25th position alongside Cole Taylor, Sandra Bakari and Nick Mitchell. Then we've got Jack Groenewald and Peter van der Spey out there, your top 30.
Then Julian Familiaris, followed there by Shane McLeod, Willem Botha, Luke King, Hammer Lazarus, Peter Hubert, Mike Verrier, Robbie Teens, Ian Riddle, and Richard Allport as FC. Away we go.
Yeah, away we go. Hardly gives us a chance to catch our breath, but it's all action out there already as Aaron Goodrick leads them into turn number 1 with Matt Shorter, Tony Lynch, Johan Fourie, Taylor Mitchell, and Dion de Graaf sitting in those 6 positions.
Look at this high-speed train. Once again, we have got 20 cars that's all over the back of each other, and it's Matt Shorter. Matt Shorter's got his nose ahead there of Goodrick. That's there in that second position. Then it's Tony Lynch. Then it's Johan Fourie and Taylor Mitchell in there as well. Darren Lobb is sitting down in that 13th position. He just won that opening race. He's 3/10 of a second behind teammate Mitchell Sparrow. That is in that 12th position. But we have a look at Matt Shorter. He's a man that sits out there in P1. He's been challenged there, 2/10 of a second between himself and Aaron Goodrick. That's there in that second position. Tony Lynch and Johan Fourie is right in there as well. So is Taylor Mitchell and Nathan Anderson.
Yeah, behind Anderson, you got Dion de Graaf with Byron Mitchell, Jacques Butter, and Keegan Masters battling it out there. They've got Darren Lobb, the winner from race number 1. Mitchell Sparrow, as they muscle their way through. That is a passing maneuver there by as Matt Shorter gets kicked down the order from the leader of the race all the way down to 6th position.
Well, I'll tell you what, these New Zealanders race very, very hard. Let's have a look what did Shorter do. He put it on the dirt. He put it on the sandy parts and the grass. He did that all by himself. And he's dropped down now. As there's chaos out there. There's major accident going on out there. Well, we knew this was going to happen with the inverted grid.
Yeah, that was massive roll there. As that looks like it's Matt Shorter that rolled that one. And it's just chaos all over this race. But it is continuing out there. Aaron Goodrick leads them from Tony Lynch. Johan Fourie now working his way up into 3rd position. Then Nathan Anderson, Taylor Mitchell, Keegan Masters, Mitchell Sparrow, and Jacques Butter in that, dropping down to 9th now with Darren Lobb. That is Matt Shorter that got spun around there and then just started that roll.
Oh, well, once it starts, you can't stop it. And he's just getting nailed left, right, and center. And then there's cars coming from the front, and he gets smashed into there by the 69 car. One of the SA boys just smashed there into Matt Shorter.
Well, there's a lot of position changes happening on the leaderboard there as we see Aaron Goodrick in that lead. He's now being challenged there by Johan Fourie. Fourie now has a clear path to the front of the track, but he's got Tony Lynch to deal with, as well as Nathan Anderson and Tyler Mitchell.
Well, Tyler Mitchell, there with Keegan Masters, Sparrow coming through, Lobb coming through, and just behind him, 5/10 of a second between Lobb, is Mike Robinson, that's 8th and 9th. Luke Lucchesi in that 13th position. He's 3.6 seconds behind Familiaris. Jack Groenewald, 2.5 seconds behind Lucchesi. Jack Groenewald there of New Zealand, and only 1.1 seconds behind him is Sander Bakari, and 0.3 of a second behind him is New Zealand's Eamon Young.
Yeah, Eamon Young out there in 16th position, and then 3 seconds down the road from them, Byron Mitchell in a 17th with Sean McNamara, who is just a 7/10 of a second behind Mitchell. Keegan Campos working his way past to Ian Riddle, and now going to attempt to go after Sean McNamara. Then we've got Riddle in 20th with Sean McLeod, Luke King, Mike Verrier, and Cole Taylor rounding off your top 24.
Well, Johan Fourie can't do too much of that. He's going to stay off the lawn because he's now been challenged there and overtaken by Tony Lynch. But he's fighting right back again. He's got the inside line there on Tony Lynch, working him to the outside, and back into P2 goes Johan Fourie, and he is 0.2 of a second ahead there of Lynch. And with this fight happening, Goodrick is disappearing down the road. He's nearly 1.9 seconds ahead there of Fourie and Lynch.
Yeah, Aaron Goodrick finding himself in a very, very favourable position up at the lead there. Johan Fourie's got to work hard to try and catch up to him, but he's also got to defend from Tony Lynch in that 3rd place. Then we were riding on board here with Julian Familiaris in that 12th position. He's got Jason Kutsia just ahead of him and Luke Lucchesi just behind him. That is a South African battle out there as Familiaris makes it past Jason Kutsia to go up into 11th.
Yeah, into P11 goes Familiaris. Ahead of them is Tony Lynch, and they're all over the back end there of Tony Lynch. There's Familiaris. He's right in there. As a matter of fact, so Lynch is dropping down. Lynch has gone down to P13, so Lynch has been overtaken there, and he finds himself now in that 13th position.
Yeah, he must have had something go horribly wrong for him, because at one stage he was now battling Johan Fourie for second and must have put a wheel somewhere on the loose. But Anderson, that is Nathan Anderson in that 3rd position. He's now getting his hands full because he's got Keegan Masters, Mitchell Sparrow, and Darren Lobb, and Tyler Mitchell, and Mike Robinson all in there to try and get past him for that 3rd position.
Yeah, and then Kossi will join that party as well. He sits out there in that 9th position as we ride aboard with the man in car 99 in P6, namely Darren Lobb. He's 0.4 of a second behind Mitchell Sparrow, who is 0.4 of a second behind Keegan Masters, who is right in there behind Nathan Anderson. But we ride aboard on this Ford Mustang of New Zealand's Darren Lobb as he stares at the back end of the Ford Mustang of Mitchell Sparrow.
Mitchell Sparrow just ahead there of Darren Lobb. Lobb's not out of trouble because he's got Taylor Mitchell right there behind him, and that's all a big grouping there. Keegan Masters gets overtaken by Mitchell Sparrow. Sparrow works himself into that 4th position. Masters fights back and says, "No way, sir, I'll take it back."
He's going to lose more than just one position because he was on the dirt there. Darren Lobb has got his nose ahead of Sparrow as well. So Darren Lobb has gone up now into a P5, Sparrow P6, Taylor Mitchell P7, Mike Robinson P8, Jason Kossi in that 9th position, and then behind him it's 3 SA boys in Familiaris, Kutsia, and Luke Lucchesi.
Yeah, Lucchesi out there in that 12th position, but it's still all-out war between Masters and Darren Lobb. Lobb now going to try and go for the inside line there on Keegan Masters. Masters closes it off because he's on the attack there on Nathan Anderson. This is going to be a high-speed train here between these guys as well. Masters weaving slightly to block off any approach from Lobb as he just closes the door as they go into turn number 3.
Yeah, Master sitting out there in P4, and he's been stared at there by Darren Lobb. That's in P5. That is that front left-hand side suspension of Darren Lobb's Ford Mustang, and he's getting closer. He's getting a hell of a lot closer now here to Keegan Masters. And they're all fighting for Anderson's 3rd position. Masters, Lobb, Sparrow, Mitchell, Robinson and Kossi, and they're all crowding each other to try and take that 3rd position away there from Nathan Anderson.
Yeah, Nathan Anderson in a spot of bother out there as he's got some very, very fast guys behind him, all wanting a piece of the real estate where he is around the circuit at this stage of the fight. So Anderson's going to have to work really hard because Masters is getting closer and closer. Just look at how close it is between them. Anderson taking a very wide line through that corner. That is the carousel, turn 9, going into turn number 10 as they head towards turn number 11, also known as the Kink.
Yeah, through the Kink. Then they'll go through Kettle Bottoms and into Canada Corner. Oh, and somebody's on the dirt. Was that Darren Lobb that was on
That's
the
Anderson.
dirt there? I just looked at my notes and I just looked up and I saw a car that was on the dirt there. Yep, FC says that is Anderson. And he is now in that 8th position, and ahead of him is Mike Robinson, and behind him is Jason Kossie.
Yeah, that means Keegan Masters move up into that 3rd position, but he's got Darren Lobb attacking every corner of that Ford Mustang of his. As Lobb dives left, he dives right, he almost tries to dive in underneath. Is Darren Lobb. He wants to get past Masters. He had a win in race number 1. He wants to get as much points as what he can for race number 2. He goes and sits on the outside line, going down the main straight towards turn number 1. They're side by side. Masters and Lobb is side by side, and Masters just making it to turn number 1 just in time.
Look at all of these New Zealand cars, and they're all tucked in there behind Keegan Masters. He's got them racked and stacked in there. That is Team New Zealand all over the back of him there. It is Lobb is the first one to lead that New Zealand team, followed there by Mitchell Sparrow, Taylor Mitchell, Mike Robinson, Nathan Anderson, and Jason Kossie. Darren Lobb sitting up there in that 4th. Look at this. Here they come. And Keegan Masters has got about 6 New Zealand boys right in there behind him.
And Lobb makes the passing maneuver. Lobb got past and he's up into 3rd position. Keegan Masters had to succeed there, but he's not giving up just yet. They're side by side. There's virtually 2/100ths of a second between them. But Darren Lobb now starting to pull clear there from Keegan Masters.
I just saw Johan Fourie disappear into that left-hander, and Darren Lobb is now in that 3rd place. He's got Masters in there behind him. Look at this high-speed express train going into the carousel. It is Darren Lobb, Keegan Masters. There Fourie goes through, and you'll see that train come into view now. Here it comes. It's a 7-way high-speed express train that is making its way through the King Kettle Bottoms towards Canada Corner, and Darren Lobb in that 3rd position has got them all racked and stacked in there behind him. All New Zealand and one SA boy between the lot of them.
Yeah, then behind Lobb we've got Keegan Masters, Mitchell Sparrow, Taylor Mitchell, Nathan Anderson, Jason Kossie in 8th, Mike Robinson in 9th. Julian Familiaris, the next South African out on the list, he's in 10th position, ahead of Jason Kutsia and New Zealand's Tony Lynch. Luke Lucchesi's worked his way up into 13th position, as he is having a bit of a hard day out there today in this race. Didn't manage to put up a time, but now he works his way up into 12th, is Luke Lucchesi.
Darren Lobb sitting out there in that 3rd place. Here they come. You just saw Goodrich and Fourie go into turn number 1, and here comes this train of cars heading its way or making its way through turn number 1, through turn 2, and then into turn number 3. And Darren Lobb leads them from Keegan Masters, from Mitchell Sparrow, from Taylor Mitchell, from Nathan Anderson, Jason Kossie, and Mike Robinson. And then there is a massive gap before we see Familiaris, Kutsia, and Lucchesi. But it is all about that fight for that 3rd position.
Yeah, the fight for 3rd long not over yet, as Darren Lobb has got to fend off the likes of Masters, Sparrow, Mitchell, and Anderson as they start to pull away there from Mike Robinson. Another quite close battle there is for that 17th position between Shane McLeod and Keegan Campos. As they're battling it out there, Keegan Campos right on the case there of Sean McLeod, trying to make a passing maneuver there for that 17th position.
Right, going into the carousel is your race leader. That's Aaron Goodrick, and he's 1.5 seconds ahead of South Africa's Johan Fourie. That is there in that 2nd position. He's 4.3 seconds ahead of the man in P3 in the Ford Mustang, namely Darren Lobb from New Zealand. Then right behind him, here we go, Keegan Masters for Team SA. And then right behind him in P5 is Mitchell Sparrow for Team New Zealand. 1.5 seconds behind him in P6 is Team New Zealand's Taylor Mitchell. And 200ths of a second behind him is Nathan Anderson, because he's side by side with Mitchell, and Anderson sneaks ahead there of Taylor Mitchell.
Yeah, Nathan Anderson decides, thank you, I'll have this one. And he's not out of trouble yet, because Mike Robinson is right in there as well in 8th. Jason Kossie waiting for a mistake there as well in that 9th position. Julian Familiaris about 4.5 seconds behind that high-speed train in 10th position. And Jason Kutsia in 11th, another 6.5 seconds down the road.
Yeah, Tiny from Tiny's pit box was telling me, look there, Jules has got no wing on the back of that car of his, of that Ford Mustang. Then 6.7 seconds behind Familiaris in the Holden Commodore is Jason Kutsia. 5.1 seconds behind him is Tony Lynch, and he's been crowded there by Luke Lucchesi. There's only 7/10 of a second FC between Tony Lynch and Luke Lucchesi, P12 and 13.
Yeah, it's side out there. But then Jack Groenewald in 14th with Iman Young in 15th. Matt Stevens in that 16th position, and he is 2.7 seconds ahead of 17th Keegan Campos. Keegan Campos just ahead there of Luke King, just how close they are to each other. And then Jacques Butter right in there with them as well in 19th position.
That's a lovely fight there for that Keegan Campos 17th position. Then in P20 and losing the circuit there is New Zealand's Cole Taylor. He's going to be overtaken there by Mike Verrier. He's going to be overtaken by more. No, he stays ahead there of Mike Verrier. That's Cole Taylor. And right in there behind Verrier in 23rd is Noah Hendricks, a 10th of a second behind Mike Verrier.
And then 2.2 seconds down the road from them, Leighton Fourie in 24th position, with Ian Riddle in that 25th slot and Barry Mannon in 26th.
Right, let's get back to what's happening at the business end of the field. 7 laps are done in this one. It's Goodrick, Fourie, Lob, and that man you see there, Keegan Masters. He's 6/10 of a second behind Darren Lobb. That's in that 3rd position, and Keegan's been hassled there by Sparrow. There's a second between the two of them. Oh, look at Mitchell Sparrow losing the circuit on the lawn and sawing away at that steering wheel to keep that car in a straight line.
Keegan Masters now the only one still hanging on to Darren Lobb there in that 4th position, as they've started putting away there from Mitchell Sparrow and Nathan Anderson, as Tyler Mitchell also stays there with Nathan Anderson. The field's starting to spread them out now. Jacques Butter getting closer and closer there to Keegan Campos as they're battling it out there for 18th and 19th position. And Butter makes the passing maneuver. Keegan comes back at him. Jacques says, no, I won't let you, and retakes that 18th position ahead of Keegan Campos.
But Mike Robinson, that's in that 9th position. He has got the Familiaris behind him. There's only 8/10 of a second between Robinson and Familiaris, and there the two of them come. Cossey's just ahead of them. There comes Robertson, and here comes Familiaris. 9/10 of a second between the two of them, and that is that fight for that 9th position. Julian Familiaris of Durant Motorsport Team SA.
Yeah, the time starting to run out here. We're on lap number 8 of 10 in this race. We had some high-speed action out there, some big crashes as this race heads towards the end of it. Aaron Goodrick in the lead ahead there of Johan Fourie. Fourie having a much better run out there in this one. Darren Lobb, the winner from heat number 1 in the 3rd position ahead of Keegan Masters.
That fight you see on screen there is between Nathan Anderson and Taylor Mitchell. There's 4/10 of a second between Anderson and Mitchell fighting it out there for Anderson's 6th position. Under the Speedville Bridge they go there into the carousel. This is a replay of Mike Verrier. That's an overtaking maneuver there made by the man in car 31, and then all of a sudden he goes and does a carousel all by his own.
Unceremoniously assisted out of the way.
Right, so Taylor Mitchell out there, back with the man that sits in 4th position, and there's 7/10 of a second between Keegan Masters, that's in P4, and Darren Lobb, that's just there ahead of him. We go down to Familiaris. Familiaris is 3/10 of a second behind Nathan Anderson. He's got no wing in the back of that Ford Mustang. The bootlet, I think, is gone of that Mustang as well. Yes, it is. And that car must be an absolute menace to handle without that wing to help with the downforce on the rear wheels, keeping in mind that these things are rear wheel driven. So Familiaris going up the hill to start another lap. 2/10 of a second FC behind the man in P9, Nathan Anderson.
Yeah, Nathan Anderson out there in P9, and Julian Familiaris right up at his back bumper. That's how close it is. That is Anderson right ahead there of him. So Julian Familiaris, he feels he can actually make a passing maneuver there on Nathan Anderson. If he can just get that little bit closer, is Julian Familiaris. They are 11 seconds ahead of 11th place man Jason Kutsia and Tony Lynch in 12th.
Right, so let's go up to what's happening on the leaderboard from the top. We are on lap 9 of 10. So there's a lap and a bit to do for that man from New Zealand in car 301. the Holden Commodore of race leader Aaron Goodrick. It sits there in P1. He's 2.3 seconds ahead of South Africa. Johan Fourie, that's there in that second place in the Commodore. Then Darren Lobb in that Ford Mustang is in third place, been hassled heavily there by Keegan Masters, 0.2 of a second between the two of them. And then FC rounding off the top 5, 2.5 seconds behind Masters is New Zealand's Mitchell Sparrow.
Yeah, Mitchell Sparrow in that 5th place, but Taylor Mitchell is right there behind him, 3.7 seconds down the road, and he's just 1.5 seconds ahead of Jason Kossie. Kossie in a bit of trouble there because Mike Robinson right there by him, but there is a 2-second breathing room for Nathan Anderson behind Robinson, but Familiaris right on that back bumper of Nathan Anderson.
Now, 0.3 of a second between Nathan and Julian, and just out of the top 10 in P11 is Jason Coetzee. He's nearly 12 seconds behind Julian Familiaris. Is Jason Coetzee, but this fight still rages on here between Kossie and Robinson. There is Coetzee, that's in that 11th position. He is now 16 seconds behind Taylor Mitchell and only 2.5 seconds or 2.9 seconds ahead of the man in P12, Tony Lynch.
Tony Lynch out there in 12th position. Luke Lucchesi is less than a second behind Lynch, and as the white flag comes out, we start our last lap with the race leader Aaron Goodrick and Johan Fourie as they already worked their way through turn number 3.
Yeah, and there they are together, 2.7 seconds between Goodrick and Fourie, and here comes Darren Lobb. Darren Lobb in that 3rd place. He's guiding the back end there of Johan Fourie. He's even flashing lights at Johan. The audacity you've got to flash the lights at a man that's fighting for position on the track. But yeah, that's what it's all about. If you can't go, then get out of my way. Let me go. But Johan will not take this one lying down. They're fighting for track position and they're fighting for top 3, and anything can still go and happen between the two of them. There's a 1/10 of a second between Fourie and Lobb FC, and now they are side by side.
They are side by side as they go into turn number 8. Now heading into the carousel. This is all-out war here. Darren Lobb wants that second position. Johan Fourie does not want to give it up. And while they're battling it out there, Aaron Goodrick is getting further and further ahead. Johan Fourie in a spot of trouble here as Darren Lobb is applying mountains of pressure.
Yeah, making their way through the kink, heading now through Kettle Bottoms and then into Canada Corner. And here comes Lobb once again. He's a 1/10 of a second behind Johan Fourie. Surely he's going to sit right next to him. He's got the line for there, but he won't have the line coming up. Or will he drive around him on the outside? I tell you what, these two guys are seasoned campaigners. Back in the day when Johan Fourie raced West Bank Modifieds and Darren Lobb raced in the Shelby Can-Ams, and it's all turned horribly wrong. There was contact, and Fourie loses that position there to Darren Lobb. As a matter of fact, he lost out to Sparrow as well.
But heading towards the line is your race leader. Aaron Goodrick brings it home across the line in the lead. Darren Lobb will cross the line in that second. No, he does not. Mitchell Sparrow has taken that one. Johan Fourie just made it past Darren Lobb again. So Fourie getting 3rd position. Darren Lobb going down to 4th. Mike Robinson bringing it home in 5th, followed by Keegan Masters, Jason Kossie, and Nathan Anderson, your top 8.
And on his case, he's Julian Familiaris, but Anderson will get to the line ahead of Familiaris. Then 1.5 seconds behind them, rounding off the top 10 is Taylor Mitchell, and then 11.3 seconds behind Taylor, just out of the top 10 in P11 is Jason Coetzee, Tony Lynch, Matt Stevens, Luke Lucchesi, Jacques Botha. The guys are all finishing their race. Eamon Young crossing the line, Keegan Campos, Leighton Fourie, and Shane McLeod also finishing his race down in 19th position, 3.3 seconds ahead there of Barry Mannon. Byron Mitchell crossing the line as well, and Noah Hendricks finishing his race. Man, oh man, oh man. Brilliant stuff, and we still got one more feature race to go.
Yeah, that's 2 out of 2 for the short sprint races. And as Frankie says, the big one we've been waiting for, the main feature coming up.
Well, there is in fact a 10-minute warm-up session. So we're going to go off for a couple of secs, take a quick breather, and we're going to come back to you with the real deal, the main event.
Right, we're back with you again for the feature race. And in pole position, it's Aaron Goodrick from Mitchell Sparrow, Johan Fourie and Darren Lobb, Mike Robinson and Keegan Masters. That is your first 6 rows, FC.
Jason Kossie will line up in the 7th alongside Nathan Anderson, then Julian Familiaris and Taylor Mitchell rounds off your top 5 rows.
Right, that is Taylor Mitchell, Coetzee, Lynch, Matt Stevens, Luke Lucchesi, Jacques Buerta, Eamon Young, and row 9 is Keegan Campos, and I didn't quite pick up who was there with him before that went off. If I'm not mistaken, FC, I think Leighton Fourie was also one of the drivers, if not the driver, that got sent packing, because he is nowhere to be found out there in that top 25. But right now, it's Goodrick from Mitchell Sparrow, then Johan Fourie. The Lone Sown SA boy in the top 8 is Johan Fourie. Darren Lobb is in there behind him, followed there by Nathan Anderson, Mike Robinson, Jason Kossie, and Taylor Mitchell, Keegan Masters, and then in the top 10 there is Matt Stevens. That is the top 20. Then you've got Matt Shorter, Cole Taylor, Nick Mitchell, and then Leighton Fourie, that's making a comeback again. He's all the way down there in that 23rd position. Right, so we go back to the front end. It is Mitchell Sparrow, that's 2/10 of a second. Make that 3/10 of a second behind race leader Aaron Goodrick. That is your top 2. Then Johan Fourie in that 3rd position. He's 6/10 of a second in there behind Mitchell Sparrow, who is a 1/10 of a second behind Johan Fourie. And here they come. This is this high-speed train. I love the camera work. Picked them up from turn number 1 and just glanced on the circuit, and you saw this absolute monster come over the ridge there, being led by Mitchell Sparrow.
And then we get a shot of the trees there as everybody is working their way around the circuit. Johan Fourie currently finds himself in that 4th position. Darren Lobb right on his case, 1/10 of a second between the two of them. Mike Robinson in there as well. Fourie only a 1/10 of a second off of Nathan Anderson. This is going to be a high-speed battle out here for that 3rd, 4th and 5th position.
Yeah, Darren Lobb sitting out there in that 5th position. He's a 1/10 of a second behind Johan Fourie, and he has got Mike Robinson 2/10 of a second in there behind him, followed there by Jason Kossie, who's also 2/10 of a second behind Mike Robinson. Then 6/10 of a second behind Kossie is Keegan Masters, and Goodrick is dropping down that leaderboard. Aaron Goodrick is dropping all the way down to that 14th position, and there's a replay FC to see what happened to Aaron Goodrick.
Yeah, just got the tail of that car onto the grass, and that sent him into a spin, and he's collected a couple of drivers along with him.
Yeah, bad luck there for Aaron. He's all the way down the leaderboard, but it's all about Mitchell Sparrow, who's a second ahead of Nathan Anderson. And Nathan Anderson is in that 2nd place. Johan Fourie is there in that 3rd position, 8/10 of a second behind Anderson, and only 3/10 of a second behind him is Darren Lobb, and then that man you see there in P5, Mike Robinson.
Yeah, Mike Robinson's currently in that 5th position. He's 2 seconds ahead there of Matt Stevens. Byron Mitchell, another 2 seconds down the road from Stevens, but he's just 4/10 ahead of Jason Coetzee, and another 2/10 ahead of Julian Familiaris. So that is a big battle going on there for that 7th, 8th, and 9th position. Barry Mannon also becoming part of that fight in that 10th place position as he gains on the South Africans ahead of him.
Yeah, one .8 seconds behind Manon in P11 is Matt Shorter, but Familiaris is involved in a heck of a fight here with Jason Coetzee. Oh, somebody in trouble. That is Keegan Masters. A lot of smoke pumping out the back of that car. He's making his way into pit lane, as well as Shane McLeod.
Yeah, Shane McLeod also picking up some problems there, as Jason Coetzee has been taken care of there by Barry Manon. Manon working his way up into P9 ahead of Coetzee. Now he's got his sights set there on Familiaris and Byron Mitchell.
Look in front of that nose cam of Mike Robinson that's there in that fifth position, and he's staring at the back end there of Darren Lobb. There's not much between Robertson and Rob, 0.3 of a second between Lobb and Robinson, P4 and 5 for Team New Zealand. And Robertson is quite comfortably ahead of Matt Stevens. There's 2.5 seconds between him and Stevens, that's in that sixth position as they work their way through the carousel. And there, Mike Robertson, Darren Lobb, and just ahead of Darren Lobb, you can see Johan Fourie. They're all in the same frame, pretty much from Sparrow all the way down to Robinson.
Yeah, the man there ahead of Mike Robinson, Darren Lobb. He's a 39-year-old, was born and spent 35 years in Johannesburg in South Africa, but he's been living in Auckland for the past 4 years. He's a 3-time South African Shelby Can-Am champion, and he raced with Nissan and BMW in SA production cars as well. So him and Johan definitely have crossed paths before over the course of the years in the actual racing series in South Africa.
Yeah, Johan Fourie was more involved in Formula Ford and V8 supercars and SASCAR, where Darren Lobb was more involved in the Shelby Can-Am, or as it was known then, the Vodacom Sports prototypes. And so they shared a racetrack together, but I don't ever think that they were on a track at the same time in the same class, but I do speak under correction. However, let's have a look, see what's happening out there on the circuit. It is Anderson and Fourie right in there with him. Here they come, and then Lobb is right behind him. Then it is Robinson that's there in that fifth position, and they're all over the back end. The RV1 Fourie is Darren Lobb and Mike Robinson. They're crowding the back end of Fourie, which means that Anderson, Nathan, will get away there from Fourie. He's already 1.5 seconds ahead there of Fourie is Nathan Anderson, as Johan is defending that third position.
Yeah, Johan Fourie defending that third position very, very hard. But Frankie, keep in mind, our race leader is a very young chap, a 16-year-old Mitchell Sparrow, hailing from Tuakau in New Zealand. They say no one actually knows where that is, but he's been racing go-karts for the last couple of years, having recently won a test with the Toyota Gazoo Racing in the Toyota Racing 86 series. So that is a lot of pressure being absorbed there by the young 16-year-old Mitchell Sparrow, leading this race ahead there of Nathan Anderson, with Fourie in the third, and fourth going to Darren Lobb, and fifth Mike Robinson.
Now that you talk about Mitchell being so young, it's a pity we haven't got a young Troy Dolacek in this race, because I think he would have given Mitchell a run for his money. But let's take nothing away from this young man sitting out there in P1, and he's lost the lead. He's dropping down the leaderboard. Sparrow's gone to P5, P6. He's dropping all the way down. We have a new leader, Nathan Anderson. Let's have a look and see what happened to Mitchell. Sparrow just overdone it and slams it into that tyre barrier.
Yeah, just a little bit over eager going into that corner, and the front end of that car just not wanting to turn in. So unfortunately, it all going to pieces there for Mitchell Sparrow. And that means we've got a new race leader in this race, and that is Nathan Anderson, another young gun. A 17-year-old Nathan Anderson lives in Auckland in New Zealand. He's been sim racing since January 2020. Nathan has recently begun racing his father's Holden Commodore New Zealand V8, as well as his XE Ford Falcon.
Well, and Johan Fourie getting himself out of shape and out of line there, and that's a costly, because Lobb and Mike Robinson has gone through there on Johan Fourie, and Johan has dropped all the way down into that fourth position. But there's still nothing between them, because Lobb, Robinson and Fourie is all over the back end of the new race leader, Nathan Anderson.
Yeah, Nathan Anderson will also be absorbing that pressure from the guys behind him. Darren Lobb, he is a professional racing driver that knows his way around the circuit, and he's going to be applying the pressure as much as he can to get past the young flyer there. Mike Robinson in that third position managed to get past Johan Fourie, and Fourie is going to have his hands full to try and gain that position back. Matt Stevens currently finds himself in 5th place, with Byron Mitchell in 6th and Julian Familiaris working their way up the ranks.
Well, there's a lovely fight here for Eamon Young's, or let's rather say Tony Lynch's 13th position, because Eamon Young and Mike Verrier are right in there with him as we go back to the front end of the field. Darren Lobb in 2nd position, 0.2 of a second behind Anderson. Robinson is in there as well, 0.3 of a second behind Darren Lobb, and only 1.7 seconds behind them in P4 is Johan Fourie. So Robinson in that 3rd place. We look up that front window of Robertson as he stares down that Ford Mustang there of Darren Lobb, who in turn is looking up that Ford Mustang of race leader Nathan Anderson.
Yeah, Nathan Anderson leading the pack. You can see him just ahead there of Darren Lobb in the shot as they come down the main straight. Beautiful shot there from the start-finish podium as they work their way down the main straight. Brilliant sight there. Mike Robinson in 3rd. We've got side-by-side action, and it's Lobb that takes the lead in this race going into turn number 1. New Zealand's Darren Lobb.
Yeah, Darren Lobb is now the new race leader in this one as they work quite a two. Anderson getting it out of shape, using the entire Road America and a touch more to hang in there on that 2nd position. He's just ahead there of Robinson and Anderson, Robertson, then Fourie. 1.8 seconds is Johan Fourie behind this combination of 1st, 2nd and 3rd. But Mike there in that 3rd position, 0.2 of a second behind Nathan Anderson.
Yeah, Nathan Anderson out there in that 2nd position, 4/10. Oh, a problem there for Mike Robinson as he almost managed to get up on the inside there of Anderson. Johan Fourie is starting to fall back a bit from that 3rd place Robinson. He's now 1.8 seconds down the road from Robinson and 1.2 seconds ahead of Matt Stevens.
Yeah, the last laps there was a couple of personal bests there for Darren Lobb, a 206.996 and a 207 dead there for Mike Robinson. So the green is PBs, and there's quite a few drivers down the leaderboard that's got the green personal best times for the previous lap.
Right, riding on board there with Mike Robinson. And problems for Nathan. Something similar to what happened to the other young flyer, Mitchell Sparrow. Just lost the tail end of it and couldn't get the car to turn in the way he wanted. He got onto the curb actually and lost the tail end there.
Yeah, he clipped the grass on his right-hand side and that chucked him all the way to the left-hand side there on the grass and on that curbstone, as FC said, and then across the grass and into the Armco barrier on the left-hand side of the track. So that will mean a lot of work for him to fight back from there, but it's all about Darren Lobb that sits there in a P1. Mike Robinson in that 2nd position. Byron Mitchell is there in a P5, and Mitchell and Matt Stevens is all over the back end there of Johan Fourie as Nathan Anderson makes his way into the pits.
Keep in mind that with this race being a longer event, there is 2 pit stops. You're not going to be able to make it on one, according to the information that we have to hand. And it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to play it out. It's quite a big fuel window. It's not a small fuel window, so you can pretty much link it up to when there is damage on your car if need be. But having said that, any extra time to fix damage is going to take you a long way down the leaderboard.
Well, a big thanks to Neil Brunt here from Tiny's Pit Box. He did some homework off air, and there is a time that Johan Fourie and Darren Lobb did race together, Gaza, and they did race Bridgestone production cars together back in the day. Tiny was telling me here in 2008. So Tiny from Tiny's Pit Box, Emil Brunt, a big thanks for that info.
Right, so that is Darren Lobb currently leading this race with a 2 minutes 6.356. His personal best. out there in this one. Mike Robinson finds himself in that second position, with Johan Fourie currently sitting in third, 2.2 seconds down from our second place man. Matt Stevens in that fourth position, actually starting to get closer there to the likes of Johan Fourie.
Yeah, Matt Stevens there in P4, 3/10 of a second behind Johan Fourie, with Byron Mitchell. He just crawled up that leaderboard slowly but surely. Byron Mitchell in that fifth position. He's 4/10 of a second behind Matt Stevens there in P4. And then Julian Familiaris of Durant Motorsport, 1.2 seconds behind Byron Mitchell. Remember, in the second race, he had no bootlet and no wing on the back of that boots. He really battled with that car, but Julian finding himself there in sixth position, now 1.1 seconds behind Byron Mitchell.
Another 4 seconds down the road is Barry Mannon for New Zealand, with Mitchell Sparrow finding himself in that eighth position after leading this race earlier. That is Sparrow out there in the number 71. Jason Coetzee, he's in the pit lane in car number 9, as well as Leighton Fourie and Matt Shorter. The South Africans are diving into the pits there. Is this strategy?
Well, it's an hour and 10 or 30 laps. We've done 8 laps so far, and we find Coetzee, Fourie and Shorter in pit lane. So it might be, we'll have to look and see how this one pans out towards the end of it. So Matt Stevens is there in that fourth position. Yes, Gary was just saying something here off air. It could also be to get out of the traffic. Yes, I agree with that, because if you're stuck in a high-speed jam, you'd rather bring a driver in and get him out into clear air. But that would then mean you're going to have to maybe make another pit stop towards the end of it, and that could catch you out. But yeah, as we said, time will tell to see what's happening out there, FC, as Matt Stevens goes through and he puts the move there on Johan Fourie. Well, I tell you what, oh, look at this. They are rubbing each other. Johan Fourie says, you want to rub, I can rub too. On the back end there of Matt Stevens. Fourie will not go down with a fight. He knows he's got the SA boys in there behind him. And he's probably saying, come on, Byron and Julian, let's work together. You've got New Zealand first, second and third. You've got South Africa 4, 5 and 6 as Byron Mitchell dives into pit lane.
Byron Mitchell dives into pit lane indeed there from sixth position, as Barry Mannon now works his way past, as does Mitchell Sparrow, and Byron Mitchell will then have to do it all over again and wait for the guys ahead of him to pit to get that position back and work himself back into that top 6.
Well, let's have a look there, FC. The biggest gainers, there's quite a few of them. Mike Vera 25, Hammer Lazarus has gone up 26 positions. So quite a few guys have made some major moves there. Barry Mannon has gone up 14 positions, and Sandro Bakari has gone up 18 positions.
Yeah, Herman Lazarus 26. Mike Verrier has just gone up more positions, as has Lazarus. They've now gone 26 and 27 respectively. Bakari going up 19 positions as Byron Mitchell finds himself there in the pit lane.
Matt Short has gone up 12, and Jacques Burt has gone down 6. Eamon Young has gone down 7. Mitchell Sparrow, yes, he's gone down 5, that we saw earlier on, and 6 for Keegan Masters. But I think there's more gainers than what there's losers in this one, as we are on lap number 9, as we ride aboard here with Byron Mitchell. That's there in that 13th position, and as FC was saying earlier on, all the way from P9 down to P21 is all Team SA.
Yeah, ooh, look at the damage there on Luke Lucchese's car. He must have picked up some super bad accident somewhere. Luke Lucchese having a lot of damage on that car. I can't imagine that thing must be handling the way that he wants it.
Yeah, Luke Lucchese for Team SA and for Pantera Racing all the way down there in that 14th position. And it's not been a good outing in general for Luke Lucchese in the Holden Commodore. It's a shorter Holden Commodore at this point in time, but Lucchese will just keep on going on and to see what's going to happen out there in front of him. What's happening in front of him is the fact that that man, Darren Lobb, sits out there in P1 in the Ford Mustang, and he's 2.4 seconds ahead of Mike Robinson in second position, who in turn is 5 seconds ahead of Matt Stevens. But Julian Familiaris is under a second there, just behind Matt Stevens.
Yeah, Familiaris under a second there from Stevens. He's on the move in that fourth position. Johan Fourie in fifth. Ooh, Barry Mannon also having a lot of damage on that Ford Mustang of his.
And Mitchell Sparrow FC is making his way into pit lane.
Ah, yeah, another car diving into the pit lane, and this time it is Mitchell Sparrow.
Right, Mitchell Sparrow makes his way into pits. Tony Lynch and Mike Verrier come through. They will take that place away from Sparrow. Look at Mike Verrier. Mike Verrier through on the inside there of Tony Lynch.
Yeah, but Tony Lynch not going to get back out of it. He's going to try to get it back there from Mike Verrier. It's literally 1/10 of a second, under a 1/10 of a second between the two of them. They're side by side, working their way out of turn number 3, and luckily just there, Mike Verrier holding on to position number 7.
Yeah, by the skin of his teeth there is the Doc holding there onto that 7th position, and they are 7.1 seconds ahead of Herman Lazarus that sits there in a P9. Does Herman is the combination of Verrier and Lynch, but Lynch all over the back of him is 1/10 of a second separating Mike Verrier from Tony Lynch. And this is a replay here of Jason Kossi, and Jason Kossi on the outside, and then losing the tail end there of that Ford Mustang of his.
Yeah, Jason Kossi just being a bit over eager on the accelerator coming out of that corner. Let's have a look at what happened to Matt Shorter a little bit earlier out there today. Yeah, just got that back wheels on the curb and ran it a bit wide coming out of that corner and sent him flying towards the wall.
Right, another early incident here for Jack Groenewald of New Zealand, turning into the left-hander, and it wouldn't turn at all. It just kept on going straight, and I think he came into that corner way too hot, and that's why he couldn't turn in. FC, another problem here for Cole Taylor, or should I say replay for Cole Taylor, and there was contact between himself and another guy from Team SA.
Yeah, it looks like it could be a Sandra Bakari that was involved with that one. Let's have a look.
Yeah, Bakari coming through, and then there was contact there between Sandro Bakari and Taylor.
Aaron Goodrick working his way around the circuit. This is a replay of when he got, that's when he lost the second position and just got hammered from all sides after getting that wheel onto the grass.
Right, so Johan Fourie is in the pit lane. The guys are now beginning to make their pit stops. Remember, it's 30 laps. We're on lap 11, so we're not halfway yet. And a lot of the guys are beginning to dive into the pits. Julian Familiaris making his way out onto the circuit, and he will join there in that 7th position. Keegan Masters working his way out of the pits. He's currently in that 15th position. That's where he will join. As a matter of fact, he won't, because a few guys are going past him, so he will join in P16.
Yeah, in P16 is Keegan Masters out there. Then Tony Lynch, Mike Verrier there in the pits, working their way out of the pits now. Iman Young in that 18th position, followed by Luke King, Jacques Butter, Sandra Bakari. Peter Ubad has worked his way up into 23rd, followed by Noor Hendricks and Luke Lucchesi having to do all that work again.
Yeah, Sandra Bakari busy coming out. Jacques Butter in the 888 car is there in the pit lane doing his pit stop. But it's all about that man, Darren Lobb. Now remember, the first 4 have not made a pit stop yet. In that first 5, it's only Byron Mitchell that's made a pit stop. So Lobb, Robinson, Stevens and Mannon has to come in and still do their pit stops. And all 4 of them are out there in those Ford Mustangs.
Yeah, and then Herman Lazarus hasn't done a stop either yet. He finds himself in that 6th position now. This is a race of fortune there, I would almost say, for Herman Lazarus. It's turned around for him tremendously as he finds himself in that 6th position, but there are quite a few seconds behind the top 4. Byron Mitchell is 1.5 seconds ahead of Lazarus, and he is 41 seconds behind the likes there of Barry Mannon, but he has got one stop in the bag. The rest of them still has to stop.
Yeah, Hammer Lazarus will still stop, and he's 2.7 seconds behind Byron Mitchell, but he's been hassled heavily there by Familiaris, and Familiaris will take that position away because Hammer Lazarus has now made his way into pit lane.
Yeah, he'll start dropping down that order as Johan Fourie, Mitchell Sparrow worked his way past. Brilliant shot there from the production team following your race leader Darren Lobb around the Road America here at in the United States, in Wisconsin.
Elkhart Lake.
Yeah, but that man leading the race hasn't done a pit stop yet. He's going to have to come in pretty soon, and he's only 3 seconds ahead there of Mike Robinson, and another 6.9, almost 7 seconds ahead there of Matt Stevens.
So New Zealanders versus South Africans in America. I love it. As we have a look at Matt Stevens there in that third position. Oh, the gaps is massively big now between everybody in that top 7. It's only Mitchell Sparrow that's in P8 that's having a go there at Johan Fourie. But it's all about Darren Lobb, and now Darren Lobb makes his way into pit lane. So will Robinson follow suit? Yes, he does. And what about Matt Stevens FC? Let's have a look and see. Yep,
Yes.
yeah. He goes into the pits as well.
Yeah, yanking that Mustang into the pits, and so is Barry Mannon. So your top 4 now heading into the pits. It'll be interesting to see where the rest of the field filters out by the time that everybody's done their stops.
Now remember that Bowden Mitchell has made a pit stop. He's done his pit stop a couple of laps before Lobb, Robertson, Stevens and Mannon. So all depending where he finds himself on the circuit, he might even get into the lead, although it's going to be a difficult task for him, and making his way around. And there's Mitchell, and he's got Familiaris 2.7 seconds behind him in that 6th position, and 3.5 seconds behind Familiaris in P7 is Johan Fourie. So Mitchell surely must take the lead now because he's going down the main straight. He's racing towards turn number 1. He's up to 4th. He's up to 3rd. He's up to 2nd. And will he get the lead? I don't know.
Well,
I
Darren
think
Lobb already
Lobb
passed.
just made
Yep.
it out in time. 1.9 seconds between Lobb and Mitchell.
We've seen Byron Mitchell do things like this in the past, where he's there or thereabouts in the race, and then all of a sudden after the pit stop round, he just manages to work his way to the front, and you can bet your bottom dollar that Byron will now start challenging the likes there of Darren Lobb.
Almost like he gets that second life after the pit stop, but he's going to be challenged by Mike Robinson. Is Byron Mitchell, and he is, because there's only 0.8 of a second between Mitchell and Robinson for that 2nd position. So Byron's going to have to get a move on, because just under a second behind him in P3 is Mike Robinson.
Mike Robinson down in that 3rd position. Julian Familiaris 4 seconds down the road. Let's have a look here what happened to Herman Lazarus. Just ran it very wide, tried to overcorrect, and that sent him flying into the tyre wall.
Well, not exactly what he wanted now, with Barry Mannon in that 5th position, and he is all over the back of Familiaris. There's just under a second between Julian in P4 and Barry that's there in that 5th position. Familiaris is going to lose that, surely he'll lose that position. He will lose speed, he'll lose drive, he'll lose momentum. You cannot put that thing on the grass all the time, and he does lose that position there to Mike Robinson.
Yeah, Byron Mitchell unfortunately losing that one there to Robinson. And now he's got to keep a level head to stay there with Robinson and stay ahead of Julian Familiaris, 2 of the quickest in South Africa, taking on 2 of the quickest in New Zealand. And don't forget about Barry Mannon in that 5th position, and Johan Fourie also still fighting his way from that 6th position.
Yeah, Johan's 2.6 seconds behind Barry Mannon, and let's see if the gap closes between Mannon and Fourie, or does Mannon pull the pin and go after Familiaris, because he's only 1.1 seconds behind Familiaris. Is Barry Mannon. So Mitchell in that 3rd position, that's Byron Mitchell, 0.7 of a second between himself and Mike Robinson. Not too far behind, you can see on your screen there, is Julian Familiaris in P4. So Julian will want to go some, but only 1.3 seconds behind him is Barry Mannon. Then Johan Fourie, and right on his case there is Mitchell Sparrow. So the youngster is fighting right back here, FC, at Johan Fourie, and he puts it on the dirt again. Sparrow must be careful. He lunges up on the inside of Johan Fourie, and does he overdo it? Yes, he goes into that corner way too hot, but somehow still remains on the circuit and in the fight with Johan Fourie.
Yeah, this is all-out battle here between Fourie and Mitchell Sparrow, the young gun against the old warhorse, as Frankie likes to call them. It is Johan Fourie that leads them out in P6 with just 0.4 of a second between himself and Mitchell Sparrow, and they are in turn 1.5 seconds ahead there of 8th place Matt Stevens.
Into the carousel they go now, Johan Fourie and Mitchell Sparrow, 0.5 of a second between the two of them. And Mitchell Sparrow, oh, he's trying very hard, is Mitchell. Mitch is trying extremely hard to catch up there and pull some overtaking maneuver here on Johan Fourie. He's using the entire Road America and its scenery as well to try and get closer there to Fourie.
As the laps start to count down, we are almost halfway into this race here at Road Atlanta. Let's have a look at what happened to Byron Mitchell. He went very wide off the track there. He went and did a bit of gardening with his Holden.
So back to the man that sits out there in P1. It's Darren Lobb in car number 99, the 99 Ford Mustang, and he's done the quickest lap out there. A 2:05.825 for race leader from New Zealand, Darren Lobb. And he's 3.9 seconds ahead there of Mike Robinson, who's only 1.9 seconds ahead there of Byron Mitchell. And Mitchell is in trouble because here comes Familiaris, 0.6 of a second between Mitchell and Familiaris.
You cannot in any race format show any sign of weakness to somebody like a Julian Familiaris, because he will pounce on it. So Byron Mitchell, Julian Familiaris will be battling it out there for that third position unless they can work together as teammates to get past the likes there of Mike Robinson and then going to fetch Darren Lobb.
Yeah, so Keegan Campos and Robbie Teens is there in the pits. Robbie Teens just came to pit there in car number 18. Julian in that fourth place, and he is 0.4 of a second behind Byron Mitchell. Can the two of them work together to catch Lobb and Robinson? I don't know. I think they're too far down the road ahead of them. But Mitchell is fighting for that third position to keep Familiaris in there at bay. I would actually say to Jules, come, let's try together and pull back that 2.4 seconds on Robinson. But yeah, we'll have to see Familiaris there for Durant Motorsport.
Well, the laps counting down here, and Julian Familiaris sitting there in that fourth position. Managed to get it down to about 0.3 of a second now as he chases down Byron Mitchell. The rest of the field is spreading out nicely there, but Leighton Fourie is on the back end there of Jason Kutsia for that 9th position. We see a big battle coming up there between those two South African boys for 9th and 10th. But Mitchell Sparrow, he sits there behind Johan Fourie. He makes a passing maneuver and Fourie drops down to 7th.
Yeah, that's Leighton Fourie sitting out there in P10. He's all over the back there of Kutsia. This is the overtaking maneuver here as Fourie goes into deep and relinquishes that position there to Sparrow. And right behind Fourie now is Matt Stevens.
Yeah, Matt Stevens right there behind Fourie. But then is that fight that I was talking about earlier. Jason Kutsia and Leighton Fourie, the two South Africans battling it out there for 9th and 10th. They've got Matt Shorter, who's another 2.6 seconds down the road from them as Keegan Masters works his way into the pits from that 12th position ahead there of Francois Hubert, Luke King and Tony Lynch.
Yeah, Tony's gone down 3 positions. Then that's Eamon Young that's there in that 16th position. He's 1.8 seconds behind Lynch. But let's have a look at this fight here. Coming down towards us, it's Familiaris that's sitting there in that 4th position. 0.2 of a second just behind SA teammate, that is Byron Mitchell, that's there in that 3rd position. Now both of these drivers, not only Team SA, but they both race for Durant Motorsport. Are they going to work together as a Durant Motorsport team and try and go after Robinson? As a matter of fact, there's now 3 seconds between Mitchell and Robinson, and yeah, they're bogging each other down, to be quite honest with you. and I don't think they're going to catch up to the man that's in that second position right now.
Yeah, at this rate, Frankie, as you say, I don't see that happening anytime soon with them racing so hard against each other for that third and fourth position. And in the meantime, they've also got to keep an eye on Barry Mannon, who is slowly but surely creeping closer and closer in that fifth position to the back end there of Julian Familiaris. It's now already gone down to 1.9, but there's a passing maneuver. It's Familiaris has passed Julian Familiaris up into third.
Yeah, Julian has gone up into that third position. That's probably the best thing that could have happened. Maybe Byron said to him, listen here, just go through. I cannot catch Robinson. Let's see if you can go and catch that man there in second position. And then just tow me with you. And then let's see what we can do from there, because he just literally let him drive around him on the outside. Then a wiggle of the car just to say, well, okay, bud, let's see what you can do. Can you close up that gap on Robertson? Because I cannot. And if I can come with you, then we are both in for a shout.
About 35 minutes left in this race until we conclude everything out here. 35 minutes or 13 laps as we see Matt Shorter coming into the pits. There's about half distance here for the guys, and we'll have to see what happens in this race. Biggest gainers so far, Luke King, 20 positions gained from the start of this race, along with the likes of Mike Verrier, who's climbed 19 positions since the green lights went out.
Well, Mitchell Sparrow is coming under attack here from Johan Fourie and from Matt Stevens. That's the three cars you see there in your frame, in your picture on your television screen now. That is Mitchell Sparrow, Johan Fourie and Matt Stevens. 6/10 of a second between Fourie and Sparrow, and 4/10 of a second between Fourie and Stevens. That is in there behind him. So they are going one-on-one there for that sixth position, currently being held there by the young gun, Mitchell Sparrow.
Yeah, Mitchell Sparrow in sixth. Johan Fourie that's going to try to get that position back. Matt Stevens believing he's got a chance to get into that position as well. Looking back from Johan Fourie towards the likes there of Matt Stevens, and that's how close it is between them in that seventh and eighth position, with Mitchell Sparrow just ahead of them there. Brilliant shot there from the right-hand back wheel of that Holden of Leighton Fourie. Johan Fourie, sorry.
Well, the leading Holden is Byron Mitchell, and that is the leading Holden, and then the second Holden is Johan Fourie, the man that you see there on screen right now, who is just under a second behind Mitchell Sparrow. And then 5/10 of a second between Johan in P7 and that man there in P8 in the Ford Mustang, namely Matt Stevens. Then behind them we've got a couple of SA boys in P9, 10, 11 and 12. That's Leighton Fourie, Jason Coetzee, Luke King and Matt Shorter, as we stay with that fight that's heading there into turn number 1. And here comes the man in P9, Leighton Fourie, only 1.5 seconds ahead there of Jason Coetzee.
Yeah, Jason Coetzee currently in that 10th position. He is 1.8 seconds behind Fourie. Luke King, 22.9 seconds there behind Coetzee, with Matt Shorter currently in that 12th position, 4 seconds down the road. Tony Lynch and Eamon Young, though, getting closer and closer to the back end there of Matt Shorter. Shorter might be in trouble pretty soon.
Yeah, Matt Stevens is all over the back end there of Johan Fourie, who's internal over the back end of the Ford Mustang there of Mitchell Sparrow. So it's not done and dusted yet for Sparrow's 6th position. Sparrow's 4.5 seconds behind Barry Mannon. As we have a look at the nation's flags there, the New Zealand flags and the Republic of South African flags there. What a lovely sight to see the New Zealand drivers and the SA drivers going one-on-one. If you can go one-on-one in a rugby and a cricket field, why can't we go one-on-one in a racetrack? Nothing wrong with that.
100%, and I look forward to seeing the end result of this one. A lot can still happen in this race. Only 38 minutes done and dusted, only 18 laps in the bag, and as they say, it's not over until the Fat Gazza sings.
Mike Verrier in that 17th position. He's 4/10 of a second behind Keegan Campos. Mike in P17, Keegan there in P16. Mike Verrier for Team SA, Rico Bala Racing and A-Call 24/7. And Mike is there in that 17th position. Now have a look at the pit stops there, FC. The first 15 drivers have done one pit stop. Campos has done 2, and then Botha, Masters, Teams, Van der Spey, Peter Hubert and New Hendricks, they've also done 2 pit stops.
Yeah, that is done and dusted for them. If they don't have to refuel again, they don't have to stop again, as they've done the mandatory 2 stops. And it'll be interesting to see when the other guys dive in. Can Byron Mitchell work his way back up into the top 3? There's your fastest laps at this stage of the fight. Darren Lobb, the fastest man out there, 2 minute 5.825. And yeah, it's super close out there. It's only one driver that's actually done a 2 minute 5 so far in this race. The rest all mid 206s out there in this race. Your main feature race in the South Africa versus New Zealand iRacing event taking place today.
Right, so Matt Stevens sitting out there in that 8th position. Just ahead of him is Johan Fourie. Just ahead of Johan Fourie in P6 is Mitchell Sparrow. 5/10 of a second between Sparrow and Fourie. And Stevens 3/10 of a second behind Johan Fourie. And that is the fight there for 6, 7 and 8.
Lucchese in the pit lane at the moment. Ewan Young in the pits. Then Luke King making his way out of the pit area as a lot of the guys are going in there for their second pit stops.
So Luke King for Dotsoft +2 Racing and Team SA. Eamon Young for Team New Zealand in car 427 making his way out. And then Pantera Racing car 24. Luke Lucchese is there in the pits for his pit stop. Bruce Tannock for Magan Turbo Motorsport, Team New Zealand in car 123 finds himself in pit lane as well.
But let's have a look from the top of the lineup so far. Darren Lobb leading this one. He's 5.4 seconds ahead of second place Mike Robinson. Julian Familiaris another 3 seconds down the road, with Byron Mitchell sitting in that 4th place ahead of Johan Fourie, who finds himself in P5.
Yeah, it's Familiaris, Mitchell and Fourie. And there's only 3/10 of a second between him and Matt Stevens. That's the 2 cars you see in your frame coming through there, as Barry Mannon for Team New Zealand in car 118 makes his way into the pit area. But Johan Fourie's been hassled heavily there. Johan Fourie in that 5th position with Matt Stevens right in there behind him. 2/10 of a second between Fourie and Stevens, fighting it up for that last position in the top 5.
Yeah, Stevens fighting it out there with Fourie for that last position. Then Leighton Fourie finds himself in that 7th position, 5 seconds down the road there from Matt Stevens. Then Jason Gutsia in 8th position. He's 3.8 seconds down from Leighton Fourie. Matt Shorter in 9th, and he's now got a nice big breathing room between himself and Mitchell Sparrow. That's 10 seconds between the 2 of them, with Barry Mannon in 11th, Tony Lynch in 12th positions, but in the pits.
Yeah, and then Keegan Campos takes that position away from him because he's there in the pit lane. But let's have a look here. It's still Matt Stevens in P6. That is 4/10 of a second behind the man in P5, namely Johan Fourie. Fourie in that 5th place, going under that bridge and diving into that right-hander. Fourie is defending that 5th position, which means he's 8.7 seconds behind the man in 4th position, namely Byron Mitchell. But Matt Stevens has not given up. Matt Stevens has not given up on taking that 5th position away there from Johan Fourie. Into the right-hander they go. Fourie will have his rear view mirror full of that New Zealand coloured car right there on his case. Look at that horse there. That is a lot of ponies under that Mustang's bonnet, and that running horse will tell you that, as that Holden Commodore of Johan Fourie is making his way into the pits. Johan Fourie into the pits.
Byron Mitchell and
Mitchell follows suit, yes.
Familiaris and Byron Mitchell also into the pits, as is Leighton Fourie and Jason Gutsia. So a lot of South Africans diving into the pits, and that releases the New Zealand boys Darren Lobb, Mike Robinson and Matt Stevens to do another lap.
Well, will they then have to do another pit stop, Lob, Robinson and Stevens? Because if they have done another pit stop, then it could count in our favour.
Well, they have to do another pit stop. It's mandatory to do 2 pit stops. So those guys will definitely have to come in. So Johan Fourie, Familiaris, Kutsia, Mitchell, Leighton Fourie, Matt Shorter from 5th to 9th, all South African, as they're all in the pits there as Matt Shorter makes his way into pit lane.
Well, this is going to be interesting stuff. Mitchell working his way out. Familiaris just ahead of him coming out onto the circuit as well. They will filter in there in P4 and 5, Julian and Byron Mitchell. Johan Fourie coming out there. He is in that 7th position, and now he's in a fight there with Barry Mannon. Mannon sits there on the outside of Johan Fourie. So it's not over yet, not by far. This one, as Fourie is now battling to keep Mannon in there behind him, and then not too far behind them will be Keegan Campos in there behind Fourie and Mannon, but he is 14 seconds behind them, and Mannon has got his nose ahead. There are Fourie, and there's contact between them, and Mannon gets sent packing there to the outside of the track.
Yeah, that's a bit of a hoss up there as the guys rub out there on one another. Just
Well, in Johan's defense, he turned in
Yeah.
on Johan Fourie.
yeah, 100%.
So Fourie did nothing wrong there.
Well, look, the guys have been doing some very aggressive racing out there throughout the course of the day, so it's all fair out there, I would say.
Yeah, but you can't turn in on somebody if you're on the outside of the circuit and try and push them out the way to gain track position, and that's exactly what he tried to do there, and Johan was not going to give in to that when he just stomped on the loud pedal and said, try your best, bud, you're going to come off second best.
100% there for Johan Fourie, who's up in that 7th position ahead of Barry Mannon. Keegan Campos in 9th, Jacques Buerta in 10th with Leighton Fourie. Fourie riding on board with him now. He is starting to creep closer and closer to the back end there of Jacques Buerta in that 10th position.
Yeah, that's a lovely fight out there, but Darren Lobb now. Lobb is picking up back markers, Luke Lucchesi and Sandro Bakari. Those are the back markers. First Luke Lucchesi, and then quite some distance down the road, or not too far down the road, will be the man that's in 20th position, named is Sandro Bakari. So Darren Lobb now well there in between the back markers.
I wanted to say it felt like I woke up in the twilight zone this morning, because I never thought I'd ever hear saying coming up on Luke Lucchesi, the back marker.
Correct. It feels very weird to say that, but it is what it is. And Luke will also not like the fact that we said that, but as I said, it is what it is, and there's no change in that. So Darren Lobb still sitting out there in P1, 4.7 seconds behind Mike Robinson. That is there in that 2nd position. Jacques Buerta is a 0.2 of a second behind Leighton Fourie. That's the fight you see there, car 46 and car 888 going through there, and that is Jacques Buerta. And right there ahead of him is Leighton Fourie.
Let's have a look here. Darren Lobb busy working his way through the final corner. Is he going to dive into the pits? No, he does not. Decides to do another lap as he's busy putting a lap there on, is that Luke Lucchesi?
Yes, as Robinson, the man in P2, dives into pit lane.
So, Matt Stevens, what's he going to do? Is he going to dive into pit lane, or is he going to go on straight and do another lap? He follows suit with Darren Lobb and decides to do another lap. So Mike Robinson must have felt that he can maybe get an advantage to get out of the traffic and go in now instead of eking it out another lap.
Right, so there is Mike Robinson busy making his way into his pit box for his pit stop. Familiaris is there in that 4th position for Durant Motorsport. And then Byron Mitchell in there behind him now. They have all done their 2 pit stops, Familiaris and Mitchell, as Robinson makes his way out, and he will falter in there in that 3rd position.
Yeah, 3rd position, 24 seconds behind second place Matt Stevens, who is 21 seconds behind your race leader Darren Lobb. But those first two still have to do their pit stops, as does Mike Verrier, as does Sandra Bakari, Herman Lazarus as well. The rest mostly has done their mandatory 2 stops in this race. Somebody diving into the pits there. That is Jacques Butter. Yeah, Jacques Butter. And Mike Verrier also diving into the pits.
Yeah, the doc making his way there into a pit lane. Dr. Mike Verrier from Rica Barlow Racing, April 24/7 Team SA in car 31. That is Mike Verrier that's making his way there into the pit lane. Right, so Lobb is sitting out there in P1. But there is nearly 22 seconds FC between Darren Lobb and Matt Stevens, and then there's nearly 24 seconds between Stevens and Robinson in that third position.
I think Lobb's got Matt Stevens covered as Sandra Bakari dives into the pit lane. I think Lobb's got Stevens covered, but I'm not too sure on what will happen with Mike Robinson, because remember, Matt Stevens still has to do a pit stop. Mike Robinson is done. He can now just put his foot on the loud pedal and keep on accelerating to try and make up as much time when Darren does decide to come in for his pit stop. As we have a look at Sandra Bakari in the pits.
Yeah, Sandra Bakari there in the pit lane, coming in there for his pit stop. So Darren Lobb and Matt Stevens have only done 1 pit stop. They have to do another pit stop, and there is Darren Lobb coming through. Behind him is the man that he put a lap on, and it's hard to say this, Luke Lucchesi. He's been lapped there by race leader Darren Lobb, and Lobb is 0.6 of a second ahead of him. Pulling away there from Luke Lucchesi is Darren Lobb, sitting up there in a P1. There you see them in the same picture, but that is your leader, and Lucchesi's been lapped, and he finds himself in that 17th position.
Yeah, in 17th. Never thought I'd say that. Luke Lucchesi out there. Herman Lazarus finds himself in 18th, but he still has to do that mandatory second stop. Jacques Butter is out there as he makes his passing maneuver there on Herman Lazarus. Behind them, Peter Hubert has had a very quiet race out there in the 20th position ahead of Aaron Goodrick. Noah Hendricks, Mike Verrier, Shane McLeod, and Willem Butter all out there in those positions. But it is all about the guys at the front. It still has to do their pit stops. Darren Lobb and Matt Stevens, will they be coming in, or will they eke it out as long as possible?
Well, we'll have to see if they can eke it out as long as possible. There's Aaron Goodrich. He's going to put a lap there on Herman Lazarus. Aaron making his way around the circuit there. Aaron is in that 20th position. Well, not put a lap on him, but overtaking maneuver, I should say there, because they're on the lead lap. There's a 0.5 of a second between Lazarus and Goodrich, and that is that fight there for that 19th position, because behind him is Peter Hubert, Noah Hendricks, and Mike Verrier. So they're all having a go there, but Herman Lazarus has dived into pit lane.
Yeah, Lazarus in the pit lane with a lot of damage to that car, the number 69 car. Look at that, no bonnet left on that Ford Mustang whatsoever. So Herman Lazarus coming in for stop number 2.
So Noah Hendricks there in that 21st position, and there's 0.4 of a second between himself and Peter Hubert. This is a whole team SA out there. They're fighting one-on-one there with each other. That is Hendricks in 21st, Hubert just ahead of him there in 20th, and then Mike Verrier just behind Hendricks in 22nd.
Yeah, and looks like Herman Lazarus has missed his pit box.
We've got a new fastest time, and it's not Darren Lobb, it's Mike Robinson, the 2:05.763.
Mike Robinson proving to be very competitive out there. He's making a point to tell Darren Lobb and Matt Stevens that you guys have got to start picking up the pace, because I am, and if you don't pick it up, I will leapfrog you in these closing stages of this race. 53 minutes done and dusted, 25 laps done and dusted out of 35 or hour and 10 minutes, whichever arrives first. We'll have to look and see. Noah Hendricks working his way around there in car number 901.
Keegan Campos in P11 is there in pit lane as well. He's Keegan Campos, and there he comes in that 32 car, that Ford Mustang of Keegan Campos making his way into the pits. for a routine pit stop. But it's all about Darren Lobb at this point in time, man, and he is going to put a lap there on Eamon Young. Still 10 seconds down the road for Lobb on Eamon Young, but that will be his next victim. But he's going to have to come into the pits because remember, he and Matt Stevens have not made their second pit stop yet, as Darren Lobb dives into the pits for his second one, FC. And here comes Matt Stevens, and surely he's going to have to follow suit.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see what he does. Will he peel off to the right? Matt Stevens, let's have a look. Runs it wide out of the final corner, and he does not go into the pits, so he's doing another lap. Where is Mike Robinson? Can Mike Robinson start catching up now from that third position to put a passing maneuver on Darren Lobb? Here comes Matt Stevens. Matt Stevens now in the lead of the race. Lobb still in the pits. Here comes Mike Robinson around the final corner. Oh, no, down the straight now. He goes, and it's going to be tight side by side. No, it's not. Darren Lobb just makes it out there. I think we've got a dash to the finish here between Darren Lobb and Mike Robinson.
Yeah, I think Darren timed it perfect. On lap 26, he just came in for a quick splash and dash, and then got his nose out there, still in that top three. So you'll have to go after Matt Stevens. There is a 14.4 seconds between them, and let's see what he can do. Eamon Young there in that 15th position is Eamon Young, and he is only 0.2 of a second behind Robbie Teens. That's the two cars you see there in picture at the same point in time, Robbie Teens and Eamon Young. This is a replay of Francois Hubert in the Just Race car, and he made contact there with another Team SA driver coming out of that left-hander.
That is Mike Verrier that he actually tagged and sent off there in the number 31. But yeah, a bit of his own doing as well, running it wide going through that corner, Mike Verrier. And unfortunately, the guys having nowhere to go. Luke Lucchesi had a bit of a moment there, got it all wrong and dumped it into the tyres.
Right there under that Speedville bridge, just before you go into the carousel, that is where he stuck it away. Robbie Teens are coming there into the pit area. Robbie pitting out of P16. But Matt Stevens, you're going to have to stop now, surely. And yes, here he comes into the pit lane. He's done that extra lap compared to what Darren Lobb did. And now it is Matt Stevens that pits out of the lead.
Yeah, Matt Stevens diving into the pits for his final stop, for what he would hopefully hope is his final stop, his final mandatory stop, as Darren Lobb is going to go up into the lead. And Matt Stevens will probably come out in that third position just ahead of Julian Familiaris, but it's going to be tight.
Familiaris there in that fourth position. Will Stevens hold on to that third place, or will Julian come through? Will Byron come through as well? Here comes Matt Stevens. The car drops down on its wheels as he rolls towards the pit lane, and Familiaris has got him, and Byron Mitchell has got him as well. So Familiaris and Mitchell goes up to P3 and 4, and Stevens rejoins in P5.
Just did not go in Matt Stevens' favour there. Mitchell Sparrow was also a race leader at one stage. He's down there in 6th position. But that is all the mandatory pit stops done and dusted. And we are riding with your race leader, Darren Lobb. He's about 5.7 seconds ahead there of second place Mike Robinson, who in turn is 13.7 seconds ahead there of Julian Familiaris,
who is 3.9, make it 4 seconds ahead of Byron Mitchell. That's there in that fourth position. And Byron is 2.2 seconds ahead of New Zealand's Matt Stevens. That is there in that fifth position. 3.2 seconds behind Matt Stevens in P6 is the young 16-year-old Mitchell Sparrow. That is there in P6, and 4.3 seconds behind him in P7 is Johan Fourie.
Yeah, Johan Fourie in that 7th position. He is ahead there of Barry Mannon, who's just 2.6 seconds down the road. Leighton Fourie, another 12.4 seconds further afield in the 9th place, and 7 seconds ahead there of Jason Coetzee in 10th. Keegan Masters finds himself in 11th position, just 5.8 seconds behind Coetzee, with Liu King rounding off your top 12.
Oh, that's the top 12. There's lots of gaps between them. In 13th position, 10 seconds behind Liu King, is Tony Lynch, finding himself there in that 13th position, 2.9, nearly 3 seconds behind Tony Lynch. He is Eamon Young, that's there in that 14th, and 9.5 seconds behind him is Keegan Campos, that is there in P15. And then 16 seconds behind Campos in P16 is Aaron Goodrick.
Just saw another fastest time there for Darren Lobb, 2:05.565. That is some super quick time for the man that's got open air ahead of him in the lead of this race. And then 6.7 seconds between himself and Mike Robinson. Robinson putting up good time, but just nowhere near enough to stick with Darren Lobb.
Oh, here we go. Byron Mitchell's 4th position is coming under attack there. And it's coming under attack from Matt Stevens. Oh, and they rub each other. Stevens wants through. Mitchell says, Well, I tell you what, these New Zealand drivers are not afraid to rub you. Well, the old saying is rubbing is racing, and that's what they're doing. Stevens sitting there on the outside of Mitchell. There's 0.02 of a second between them. Mitchell on the inside line. Stevens does the cutback on him. And there's contact. There was contact once again, but somehow, some way, Byron Mitchell holds on to that position.
Yeah, that is all-out war here between the two guys here, Byron Mitchell and Matt Stevens. Stevens are definitely being extremely aggressive on the approach there as they battle it out there. The New Zealand guys, in general, having a little bit more of a harder tactic when it comes to racing, rubbing up against each other a little bit more than what the South Africans do, and luckily it just did not go ended up in any tears of some sort as Byron Mitchell hung on to that one, and Matt Stevens also hanging on to that 5th position.
Well, Eamon Young's 12th position is under serious attack there from the man that is just there behind him, namely Tony Lynch and Jason Coetzee. Tony in P13, Jason in P14. That's the 3 cars you see there in your screen, and they are going after Eamon Young's 12th position as the 3 of them are locked nose to tail for that 12th position of Eamon Young.
12th position here for Eamon Young in trouble. Tony Lynch applying a lot of pressure, and Jason Coetzee right in there, as Frankie said. That is the only real close battle other than the one that we see there between Byron Mitchell and Matt Stevens. Matt Stevens going for the outside of Byron Mitchell. Mitchell closes off the line as they go into turn number, turn number 3. Look at Stevens attacking the backside there now, once again going for the outside. There's contact, and Stevens gets sent into the gravel trap. A little bit of tit for tat.
Yeah, well, you're only going to barge your way through so much before it turns against you. And we was never going to give back out of that one. As a matter of fact, they were actually leaning on each other, to be fair. And it didn't pan out in the favor of Matt Stevens.
Yeah, unfortunately, Stevens at one stage leading this race. A lot of drivers being in a position where they've led the race, and something going a little bit wrong for them as Keegan Masters makes his way to the pits.
Yeah, Keegan in that 11th position, making his way into the pit area as Matt Stevens, here we go, Jason Coetzee is out there in that 11th position, and he's got Eamon Young right in there behind him. So Eamon Young in P12, 0.2 of a second between himself and the young gun from SA in P11, namely Jason Coetzee.
Yeah, Jason Coetzee taking a lot of pressure there from Eamon Young as they work their way around the circuit here at Road America in the Wisconsin in the United States. Aaron Goodrick in the pits, and Young's going to go for the outside there of Jason Coetzee as they head towards the corner. Late on the brakes they go, but it is Coetzee that hangs on to that position, and Eamon Young will have to wait another time.
Well, it's still not done and dusted here between Jason Coetzee, that's in P11, and the man behind him, namely Eamon Young. Yep, the white flag comes out. We've got one more lap to go. One more lap for Darren Lobb. Surely he can't lose it from here because he's 7.5 seconds ahead of Mike Robinson.
Yeah, as he works his way around the circuit there, but it is still this battle between Jason Coetzee and it's the Matt Stevens and Johan Fourie battling it out there for 6th and 7th as they start their final lap here in this race. A little bit of argy-bargy between the guys while Stevens is going to go late on the brakes to try and upset Johan Fourie. Fourie knows how it works here. He's not going to fall for that.
I tell you what, you're not going to fall, but watch out for Barry Mannon. Barry Mannon's only 1.3 seconds behind Fourie and Stevens. There he comes into a picture as Fourie and Stevens are absolutely side by side. There's a 200th of a second between them, which means they are literally side by side. Johan Fourie and Matt Stevens, they are still side by side. Fourie will have the line for the left-hander, and for now he stays the head of Stevens and Fourie make contact. They make contact, and here comes Barry Mannon. He's only 7/10 of a second now behind the combination of Johan Fourie and Matt Stevens.
Yeah, while Fourie and Stevens bog each other down, Barry Mannon is seeing the opportunity here to get closer and closer. But the final quarter of the circuit belongs to this man, Darren Lobb. He's going to go through the final corner now pretty soon. He's going to go into that right-hander and then at speed down in the main straight. This is your race leader and your race winner as Fourie and Stevens still battle it out. But Darren Lobb takes the checkered flag in the feature race here for South Africa versus New Zealand. In second, it will be Mike Robinson in the also for New Zealand, 7.5 seconds down the road, with Julian Familiaris that'll bring home that car of his in third position.
Yeah, Robinson crosses the line and takes the flag there in that second position. 16 seconds behind him is Julian Familiaris. He's happy chappy. And Byron Mitchell, 6 seconds behind him, will finish in that fourth position. New Zealand first and second, South Africa third and fourth as Mitchell Sparrow crosses the line, and then Matt Stevens eventually got his nose ahead there of Johan Fourie at the checkered flag.
Yeah, Barry Mannon had to dive into the pit lane. We'll have to see where he will finish. Has he got enough? Yeah, he's got enough time. He finishes in 8th position. Luke King will bring that car home in 9th position.
Then Jason Coetzee will finish in 10th. He's nearly 14 seconds behind him as we watch Luke King in P9 in the .soft +2 plumbing and Team SA car working his way towards the checkered flag. And but that is some excellent racing out there. Kossie crosses the line and finishes his race in 9th position, and then Jason Coetzee will finish in P10, nearly 14 seconds behind Luke King.
Eamon Young brings it home in 11th, ahead there of Keegan Campos, just to the line there, Keegan Campos. Then Tony Lynch that will bring it home in 13th, followed by Keegan Masters, Leighton Fourie, Robbie Teings, Noah Hendricks, Aaron Goodrick, Luke Lucchesi, Peter Hubert, Matt Shorter, Sandra Bakari, Peter van der Spey, Shane McLeod and Willem Botha.
Well, it was absolutely unbelievable. And if you have a look at our guys from South Africa and the superstars from New Zealand, it's pretty much all mixed up. So yeah, it's hard to say which is the best, but you'll have to say New Zealand because the feature race was won by Darren Lobb from Mike Robinson. So well done to the drivers from South Africa. Well done to the boys from New Zealand. An excellent performance.
There we go. There's the results from the feature race. Darren Lobb and Mike Robinson on the first two steps of the podium for New Zealand. The third step will go to South Africa's Julian Familiaris with Byron Mitchell for South Africa, bringing it home in 4th. Then in 5th place for New Zealand, Mitchell Sparrow, and 6th for New Zealand, Matt Stevens.
7th for South Africa is Luke King. 8th for RSA is Johan Fourie. Then P9 for New Zealand is Barry Mannon. And then for South Africa in P10 is Jason Kutsia.
11th will go to Imani Young, and then Keegan Campos brings it home in 12th, followed by Tony Lynch, Keegan Masters, Leighton Fourie, Robbie Teens, Noah Hendricks, Aaron Goodrick, and Luke Lucchesi, and Peter Hubert rounding off your top 20.
And only your first 14 drivers was on the lead lap. Everybody else was down one lap or more. Lovely, lovely, lovely stuff as Gary pans down that leaderboard all the way down to 38th position, make that 39th, make that 40 positions, because there were 20 South Africans and 20 New Zealanders out on the circuit. Well done, well done, well done. New Zealand, thank you very, very much to all the drivers from New Zealand. I know it's late there in New Zealand now. They're about, 10, 11 hours behind us.
Oh, they're 10 hours ahead of us.
Yeah, they're probably heading into Monday morning already. That's quite right, yes. But yeah, thank you so much to everybody from New Zealand and Darren Lobb. FC, the top SA drivers.
Yeah, so looking at the results, your top South African drivers, Julian Familiaris, the fastest man, Byron Mitchell in second, and Luke King in third.
Yeah, and then let's have a look. Can we see the top New Zealand drivers? Look at that. Darren Lobb, Mike Robinson, Mitchell Sparrow, Matt Stevens, Barry Mannon, Eamon Young, Tony Lynch, Aaron Goodrick, Shay McLeod, and Jason Crossley. That's just the top 10. The others all the way down to P18.
Well, folks, that pretty much wraps up the first of what I think is going to be more than one international race. I don't think this
it
is
better
where
be.
it stops. This is not where it stops. FC Nieuwoud, the man from Race Productions, and Jo Stasi, and national commentator, Oval Track throughout South Africa. Closing word on your side. Clash of Nations round number 1, Road America V8 Supercars.
Yeah, it was a lovely Sunday morning here for us in the second gear studio. The racing was red hot, and I look forward to more of this. Big thanks to everybody involved to putting this together.
The voice of West Motorsport, Frankie Innes, you're accustomed to seeing top-notch racing. Well, this is out of the top drawer.
Well, this is more than just out of the top drawer. This is under the drawer, over the desk, around the desk. This is brilliant stuff. And as I said, to Darren Lobb and every driver in New Zealand, we thank you so much from our point of view that we could have the opportunity to have our drivers race against you gentlemen. And we're looking forward to the return leg, because there will be a return leg. And I think, Gary, they chose the cars and the circuits. So the return leg will be, we will choose a car and we will choose a circuit from this side, and then we'll go one-on-one with all these great drivers from New Zealand.
We're just taking it for granted it's going to happen, but it probably will.
It probably will.
From a second year studio, my side, Gary Fleming, have a lovely day further. Enjoy the rest of the weekend, and keep an eye on social media and keep up to date with the next upcoming events. Good night, everyone.